Sneb.
Rewards?
Do you want to talk a little bit about rewards? And, what are you thinking?
They threw some coins at us, I guess.
Okay.
I've actually been speaking with a lot of people about this. I think rewards are very complicated because everyone feels rewarded in different ways. Sometimes people just like the idea of completing it. Some people like the title. Some people like the gold. Some people like getting materials. Some people like a series of achievements that get them a grander title. And so when we look at the reward system for strike missions right now, it feels like they're kind of missing it from every angle.
That was very polite.
They give you a title, I guess. So I guess the title's okay. But there's no like overarching reason to keep doing it. There's no like special currency for that. There's no legendary item. There's no big chase or big slew of achievements. It feels like it's very, very small. It feels like it's content that you complete one time and then you're kind of done because there's nothing to collect. Sure, there's a skin, but I don't know that one ascended skin is enough to really keep people going. That's my view. Maybe it is for some people. I think the completionists, yeah, sure. But beyond that, I feel like you're just there's not much reason to keep doing it. All right, we're taking over the stream.
As well?
Me, Emmy, yes. Lara, welcome to TeaTime.
See you. TeaPot is unfortunately muted today. This is
TeaPot is muted. We win.
We're taking over the stream.
Okay. All right, I'll do like classic YouTube intro, okay? What's up, everybody? My name is Sneb. I'm here with Emmy, Lara, and of course, TeaPot. And what's going on? We're going to have a good time today. Welcome to TeaTime.
All right.
Oh, cool. This is a fantastic intro to this show.
Thank you.
It's not going to get better than this, I think.
Thank you very much indeed to Sneb for that wonderful intro. I have now managed to unmute myself. Don't know what happened there. My audio device appeared to have completely reset there for some reason. But you know what? Welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome to my wonderful guests here, Sneb, Lara, and Emmy. We're here to talk about some strike missions. It's the hot topic right now, okay? It's intense. We've got a new challenge mode out right now, and this is delve right into it with some initial impressions. First up, I killed it first try, and that actually made me initially think, oh no, this isn't good. What a disaster. But actually, after playing it a lot, I realized that isn't the case, and I'm going to get accused of massive copium a lot during this, so I'm hopefully I can convince you otherwise, actually, as we progress through the show. But no, I actually think this was a very solid addition to the strike mission CMs, purely because it challenges the player in a different way. Like, the first one had these really strict roadblocks where if you don't understand it, you can't get past this, right? If you don't understand how the green works, you lose. If you don't understand how the bombs work on my Trin, you immediately lose. This one was a lot more focused around combat mechanics, and, movement and maintaining damage, positioning, all that sort of stuff. And I think that's actually, to be frank, a lot more valuable, a much more valuable skill than, in fact, solving a puzzle, because the puzzle is like very specific to that encounter. Whereas movement mechanics and combat mechanics, that's something that if players are able to pick up, they'll be able to apply that skill everywhere else in the game. So hopefully with the final two strike missions, we actually have a bit of a kind of a combination of those two to really push the player base, because I think bringing them together is where things can really get interesting. But yeah, that's my initial impression. That was my initial impression of the strike mission. So before we leap any deeper, anyone else want to contribute with their first thoughts? What were you thinking when you first joined Anka CM? There's snakes, there's crate, lich, quaggons. What's going on there?
You said that you killed it first try. I just went to look at my logs. It took my team 47 tries. So that was a bit more, just a bit more. I actually completely agree with what you're saying. I think it's difficult, but just difficult in a different way. Like the Everblade CM was basically like puzzle. You have to figure out the puzzle. That is why a lot of these more professional players killed it not in their first try. And this fight feels almost a bit more pure to me. It's not like about necessarily as much about like figuring out how mechanics works, but it's more about your fundamentals. And that is why I find it so darn exciting. Like you said, I think it's a great way to sort of get better at the game and get better at like, doing these, making sure you're not standing in AoE and also doing damage at the same time. I actually really liked it. I had a great time, even though it took 47 tries. I very much enjoyed it. I actually think I enjoyed it more than the last one. So I'm pretty happy about it. Pretty good.
I know with my group, I think it took us only about 4 or 5 tries, and it was with the group of raid trainees that, like, actually a few months ago they raided for the very first time, and this time they were able to do it pretty comfortably. One of the big things that I noticed is that since they weren't super comfortable with like just mechanically piloting the game, like moving while at the same time as attacking, they tended to tunnel vision a lot on their like rotations, on like their movement, and like the very obvious AoEs in front of them, they would be able to dodge, right? And they had the mechanical skill to dodge those, but the ones where it's like it's coming off from the side, so like the hallucinations that are walking across, or the AoE circles like spawning and Anka like moves around, they weren't really able to pick those up. And I think that's just because that's another skill that needs to be exercised. And I think it's something that a lot of veteran players kind of take for granted, where it's like you have this sort of skill to look at the peripheral vision and like see like, oh, something is dangerous is coming towards me, I better move out of the way. Whereas like newer players would be like, their rotations aren't bad, because they've been practicing it, but it takes a lot of their mental brain power. So because of that, they don't have much mental energy left to like also be paying attention to a bunch of other things. And it's until that kind of becomes more natural and a bit more like, like you can kind of do your rotation in your sleep, right? Because you're just like super comfortable with it. Then I think that's when you can start paying attention to things outside of just yourself. Things like seeing where your teammates are, or where your healers are, or where your buff appliers are, where these external mechanics are happening, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm not flaming them. They're my babies. I'm really proud of them. I'm very proud of them.
No, I think that's a very good point. These kind of fundamental mechanics, that is where players struggle. I've actually pugged it a fair bit. I played it. I even played on NA to get the title achievement with some NA gamers. And I would actually say that people have a little bit more trouble with Anka than my train on average. Like, that's my experience. People seem to be able to get the hang of the Aetherblade stuff really quickly. Whereas with the Anka CM, it takes a little bit longer. To they already have, as you say, right, that veteran inbuilt piloting ability to control the game. And it's really hard to actually relate to that for a lot of players, I think, when they don't realize this. I think a lot of, once you get to that level, you just kind of assume that everyone is that way. It's a very, very bad assumption. And I think that this challenge mode really demonstrates that well, actually. There is a bit of this disconnect. And I do want to say that it really does confirm a lot of what a lot of the kind of veteran scene was saying about Dragon's End and other challenging content. It really is these build piloting skills that allow you to make this stuff easier. And it's also why a lot of the harder content in the game, stuff like raids, challenge mode fractals, challenge mode strikes, I think that's why it appears to be impossible, because a lot of players are essentially attacking these problems as if they're like trying to, chip away a mountain with a fork, right? Or like drain a well, with a knife, right? It's like totally futile and pointless, because they have the wrong tools for the job, and the wrong tools for the job happen to be not having a refined enough control of the game at a base level. And this strike mission really demonstrates that that is one of the things where players have the biggest area, the biggest room to improve, right, when it comes to making things better. But before we delve into that, Sneb, what do you think of Anka CM? First impressions.
I mean, I had a group that was a pretty strong group, and I think we struggled mostly just figuring out and learning the mechanics. But once we did, there are a few compositions that you can do that are just like totally broken. Like, apparently lifesteal doesn't affect the, what is it called? Like the damage reduction if you miss the CC. So if you take like double Blood Scourge, you actually do more damage if you were doing the CM. So Blood Scourge in general, or like a heal scourge is really strong. Having like mechanists and specters, just barrier in general is extremely powerful, especially for the CM. So for me, I actually really like that the mechanics are different. How do I explain this? I think the coolest part about the new CMs is that they're not on a like a conveyor belt. They're not on train tracks. Rather, they're not just taking us on the same path every time. When I fight Samurag, it is doing the exact same thing every single time. Mm-hmm. The CMs, they have like this little RNG component where it's cycling through one of three things, and it could give you like three things in a row, or it could do each one of them, and that makes it so that you're not just learning a strategy, you're not just learning how to just go on this train, you're learning how to actually adapt to what's going on all the time. So I really like that encounter design because it's helping players understand that they can't just go, okay, at minute 8:30, this is going to happen and I'm going to move here. And then they don't even necessarily fully understand what's going on. They just go on the train tracks. So I really enjoy that it's throwing these things at you, and obviously it's the same things, but it's in a different order every time. I really like that. So overall, I thought the CM was really good, but yeah, I was also concerned when you beat it first try. The CM made it for me. I thought that was fun.
I'm so happy that they did that. Just it's been such a long time since we had any real raid bosses. I think Wing 7 is like, how many years ago is it now? It's like
too long.
nearly 3. Nearly 3
oh my
years.
God. And like I remember when they first announced like strikes were coming with EOD and they were getting CMs, and some of us were like, yo, we're getting new raid pulses. These are basically raid pulses. And a lot of people didn't believe. A lot of people were like, no, there's still strikes. These are not hard pulses. These will be super easy, even on CM. And I'm just glad that these are actually like engaging fights with 10 people. And it feels just like the old days when a new raid would come out. And then I'm just glad at how much difficulty variations there are. You've got like the story mode, you've got the regular modes for if you're a bit newer. Then you've got the CM mode, and then if the CM mode is too easy for you because you're like a completely pro raider, you've got like that achievement, right? Like ultimate challenge, the tightest DPS check in the game, as far as I'm aware. I think they're doing a great job at sort of like pleasing everyone, pleasing the people that are looking for that ultimate challenge, while at the same time bringing out fights that are accessible to many people in the community. I'm really, really happy about this, and I cannot wait for the 2 other ones that are coming out.
I agree. I think actually my personal prediction is that I think Harvest Temple CM is going to probably be the most difficult CM in the game. Like I think definitely like harder than like Doom CM, because I feel like if you think about it, the difficulty jump is very, very high, right? It's like if you think, okay, no offense to anyone who hasn't cleared Doom CM yet, but the difference between normal Doom and Doom CM is really not all that much. The boss has more health, so that means that DPS is more important. And then there's like a thing running around where you have to be generally aware. But in general, the mechanics are still the same, right? Whereas when you look at normal Aetherblade versus Aetherblade CM, and similarly when you look at Anka versus Anka CM, the DPS checks are a lot tighter, the healing checks are a lot tighter, and the mechanics are a lot more punishing. And I feel like if we follow that general sort of pattern, right? It's like Harvest Temple is already, in my opinion, harder than some of the raid bosses, right? Like I find Harvest Temple harder than like Gorse or like VG or like, I don't know, even like KC, that sort of thing. So it's like, if it's already harder than some of the base mechanics, if we like look at it linearly, right, then that means that the CM is going to be significantly harder, right? So I am personally of the opinion that, I don't know, having these varying levels, like Lara said, is actually really good for the community because you can kind of pick your poison, right? It's like if you want to just in and out 5 minutes, get your kill, get the turtle CM or something, or the turtle achievement, congratulations, you're done, right? You don't really have to engage with it more. But then having these extra layers of complexity then continues to have people want to I don't know, go for them, right? It's like a prestige thing, right? It's like nowadays, I imagine if you see people rocking like the Gazing in the Void title, you think, wow, they must be a pretty good player, right? So it's like a prestige title in a way.
It absolutely is. And I'm really glad that the title came up there because I think this is actually, there's some valid criticism here of the title, and I understand that it's not repeatable. And yeah, sure, that means that the actual challenge mode itself is perhaps not quite as hard as some of the really tryhard players would like, but I think this is a really good compromise, because realistically, can ArenaNet actually tune the bosses around like the top 0.1% of raiders? Absolutely not, okay? This is not WoW, okay? They can't put a bit of content in the game that like 200 people can beat in the entire game. That's ridiculous. But what they can do is add an achievement that kind of forces you to approach the fight a little bit differently, that makes it arbitrarily harder for some reason, and then give you a title for that. So I think this title being this way is actually really exciting, because, you know, I spoke a little while ago when we I think on another TeaTime when we were talking about strike missions, and I said, oh yeah, what you really need is you need something above challenge mode. You need nightmare mode as well, right? Because otherwise the difficulty spike is going to be way too much. And I think that these achievements could very much be the expression of this nightmare mode, right? The final tier of difficulty that has that does carry that level of prestige with it. Because to be clear, guys, I would actually say that this achievement, Gaze into the Void, which it basically it forces you to fail a mechanic twice, that makes the fight significantly harder, making the boss do far more damage and also take far less damage, turning it into a very kind of a very strict DPS check. It's probably one of the hardest achievements in the game, if not the hardest achievement in the game, to be honest, actually, as of right now. And it's got my hopes up. I'm feeling really, really hyped up, actually, about the next two titles that will be coming along with the next two strike missions, because there will be a title. You know, Aetherblade had one, and now Anka has one as well. So presumably Kaineng and Harvest Temple will both have titles as well. So hopefully they will also be similar in the way that they really kind of change up the dynamic of the encounter and make it significantly harder. And although it isn't repeatable, I think it will be a really fun challenge to progress it for the first time, and will hopefully offer that kind of really extreme difficulty that obviously, you know, the very sweaty raiders are looking for.
Yeah.
I also like that it's hard to sell that title, right?
Yeah, it really is. The DPS check is very, very strict.
Yeah, the DPS check is pretty high, but not only that, do you have to be alive or not? I actually don't know. Do you have to be alive?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
After they fixed it, no, you don't have to.
Okay.
Sneb, it's already being sold.
Oh yeah, it's harder to sell, right?
Mhm.
I would like to see. I would like to see if you're dead, you just don't get it. Just like on Envoy, you know how they have that one step. Well, and the reason is because then it makes it way harder to sell, so it encourages people to want to learn it.
I think also something that a lot of people miss is very few people actually buy stuff. Okay, few in context of like the entire player base. If you have like 5 or 6 people that are buying it, you're still comparing to 500, 600,000 people in the game. So it's like, I just want to make that like super clear. Like a lot of people see it as like, oh my gosh, it's like diminishing my own prestige or something like that. It's just one extra people running around with the titles. So it's like, I don't know.
It kind of does, though.
I mean, it does a little bit, but at the same time, I remember this is one of the points I wanted to bring up, is like this idea of internal versus extrinsic feeling of reward, right? It's like if you know that you put in the effort to achieve it, then there is an internal sense of like, I was good enough to get that, you know? And then there's like the external reward of getting recognized by the people around you, right? It's like these two things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, but I think the number of people that have gotten the title legitimately far outweighs the number of people that have gotten it illegitimately.
Yeah, I actually think that isn't true.
You
really?
Think it's true?
For Voice in the Void, I would even say it is definitely not true.
For the long-term titles, that might not be true. But especially in the first week, when I think people are really like interested in it, because let's be honest, how many people are actually trying to go after the Voice in the Void title now? Like maybe a handful of statics in the entire like game, right? It's like nowadays kind of the prestige has worn off because there's greener pastures to go to, right? Like nowadays, like when people see Voice in the Void, nah, it's like the Kanye meme, like nah, and now it's like gazing in the void, right? So it's like I
good
think
achievement.
when it really matters, aka when like the achievement or the title or the rewards or whatever it is first comes out, I think that's where the prestige really shines. After that, people kind of forget, right? Like new players aren't going to know the difference between VITV and GITV. So it's like the sense of prestige has already worn off, which is I think that I think this is going to be a very interesting topic that we can also maybe discuss later, is that at what point is it enough, right? And I think my personal response to that is that it's never going to be. There's always going to be that feeling of wanting to chase the new content, feeling like you're continuing to progress faster than the other people. So it's like, I think we've already forgotten about Aetherblade CM for the most part, right? It's like, I think most people don't really pug it all that much anymore. I haven't really seen too many people with the title, and everyone's talking about Anka CM. I think once Kaineng CM comes out, you're going to see the same phenomenon happen with Anka CM. It's going to become like, oh, that was like so last week. And then when Harvest Temple comes out, it's going to be that. Whatever they come out in the 4th expansion, it's going to be that, So it's like, I think when the prestige matters most, it is actually still quite prestigious. That's my personal take on it.
Oh no, I
So do you want
completely agree.
temporary prestige then?
Yeah, I wasn't actually being.
I don't know.
Oh yeah. Sorry, just Rogue. I wasn't being contrarian there necessarily. I was just memeing. I actually think that you're completely right about extrinsic reward. Actually, I think that for me, Voice in the Void is cool because of what it represents in my journey in the game. Right. I honestly don't care if people buy it. It means nothing to me. Right. I don't care about that in any way. And and you know what? I'll go a step further. I don't even think you should. I think, what it means to you and how your personal journey to accomplish that is more important than worrying about other people's personal journey to the same thing, right? That's my hot take there. That's actually a cold take, but sorry, go ahead, Sneb.
I mean, I don't really necessarily have a super strong feeling about this one way or the other, but is it okay to just have temporary prestige? Because I mean, we have titles in the game that are quite prestigious, right? Like you have the PvP ones, right? Where you can only get it if you get top 10, top 25, top 1, 2, 3, right? There are very exclusive titles. Do we care if, like, in a year or two, the PvE type titles that would be considered the most prestigious PvE titles because they're, I don't know, they're like the CMs, I guess. Do we care if they're bought to the point where more people have purchased them than earned them? Do we care or not?
I think prestige is inherently temporary. I think, just as Emmy said, I think it's no one's going to care. People are only going to care about it for a very minimal amount of time anyway. It's the same in PvP. Even though the titles are permanent, no one cares if you won the monthly AT 3 years ago, right? People only care if you won it now, right? Like if you're the hot shit, if you're the hot team. Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean,
I think it's kind of symbolic,
like
right? It's like, oh, you beat this team, right? Or you've won 10 times in a row, or even if that was 2 years ago, right? Yeah, it's still like a moment of history, or like a.
It diminishes
that, right?
I think it's still like
there's
important.
A fall off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the things I think that really comes with the idea of prestige is this social acceptance of it. Right? It's like, it's not so much the actual physical title, because those are just some like digital bytes somewhere in someone's server, right? It's the feeling of having people recognize you. I think that's like what a lot of people who are going for these super prestigious titles are really chasing for. So the idea is not really like, these monetary rewards that you're getting, like 20 gold if you complete the encounter. It's the recognition from your peers. I think that's what a lot of people are chasing for. And I don't want to say like, that completely disappears, because like maybe I'm super biased because I've done some raid selling myself. I honestly think a lot of people like are way overblowing it. And I've also trained a lot of people to actually getting it, right? Like the people that have trained and spent weeks trying to get Voice in the Void, I know that they worked really hard. So at least for myself, I can recognize that from them, right? And I don't know what like Joe Bob is thinking like in the game when they see his title, but I think to the people who really matter most in this like terms of like social prestige are the people that were there when you actually got it, and they can recognize, and I think that recognition is what a lot of people are chasing for. So that's my personal take on it. Like I think prestige is important. I think the longevity of it is important, but I think it's kind of like I guess it's very much secondary to this first idea that we want, which is we just want acknowledgement from the people around us that we worked hard and we were able to achieve something. So
I actually think it's such a large part of it is just our own like experience about having this title. Just running around and being like, oh, I have that Voice in the Void title, and then like you were saying, sort of remembering your own journey to get it. I don't actually, for me personally, I do not care that much if other people have bought the title. It's more like this cool thing to go for. And actually, I love that they're doing a title for this thing because it's so motivating to sort of push yourself. It's like, oh hey, I've done the challenge mode, but there's the title. And even if the title doesn't mean that much 2 years from now, you kind of want to go for it. You kind of want to be like, hey, look at me, I have this title. Even if nobody actually cares, just the fact that you yourself care, I think, is enough. And I think it's just genius how they've done it this time, where they have the challenge mode, which is like a challenge for, let's be fair, like most people in the community. For me and my friends, it was a huge challenge just to do the challenge mode. And then there's this thing even beyond that, which you don't necessarily want to have on the farm, right? But just that title, just that's unlocking that on your account, sort of this completionist vibe, and then like showing it off and stuff. Like, yo, I did the really hard one. I think it's genius, and I don't think that rate setting diminishes that too much because, like, I just want to run around and be like, "Ha, I have that title." I don't actually care what other people think. I'm just, bragging to myself, almost like, "Yo, look at that title! God, I'm so happy I got it."
Also represents kind of like this long-term goal, right? It's like, I
Yeah.
think there's very few things in Guild Wars 2 that are really, really take you like months necessarily to complete, right? Like the easiest one I can kind of think of is like maybe like the 10K rank in like Wolver's World, or like, I don't know, legendary weapons and that sort of thing. There's very few things in this game that takes a very, very long time. And I think obviously as like, super like experienced speedrunners and they can get it in one shot, doesn't really mean that much to them. But for maybe like a small guild that really only plays within themselves, this type of content will take them months, right? It's going to take you,
Yeah.
okay, maybe not months, but it'll take you weeks, right? And it'll take you weeks to really get the skill level, to kind of understand the mechanics, to hone your like micro skill. Like that is a long-term goal. And I think to have some sort
It's
of
just like such a great motivator, right? Like, I'm just getting started with raiding, but one day I'll get that title that my friend has, right? It's just this nice thing at the end where you can work towards and stuff. I think that's so important. And really, I think the last time we had that was like Voice in the Voice, and now we got a new one, and I absolutely love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, all of the raid CM titles were really good, I think, especially for the like, more newer folks and stuff. But I do also agree. I think not having too much for the veteran, because we've right now I'm like focusing a lot on like new players because I've been doing a lot of raid training. But for the veteran players, like I remember I was like with Theaxon and them, and we got it in one night, right? So it's like it was really insane progression for one night, but after that there's kind of nothing, right? It kind of like disappears. There's not really too much else to do, and it's like it's like you said, the CM is not exactly repeatable because you don't really get any extra rewards and stuff. So I think there's definitely something to be said about that as well. So
rewards, huh? Yeah. Before we kind of move on to rewards, I suppose, because that that's the big one. Okay, this is a big juicy one, and I think Sneb's going to activate on this big time, and I'm going to enjoy it as well. I'm a big fan of the design with the way they've taken this stuff, and I know that people are like, oh, but we've got an easy CM and we have to do the title if we want it to be difficult. Well, at the end of the day, this is definitely a really difficult challenge mode for I think most people, for sure, in a very different way, right, to the first one. And hey, this is only the second one too, and it was stated that they are going to ramp up a little bit in difficulty, and I really hope they stick to that. I do hope it's quite actually a steep curve. I want to see a significant jump in difficulty with Kaineng and Harvest Temple. I think that's actually quite likely too, because I think if you look at the normal modes, there is it's huge, right? Looking at Aether Blade normal and Unka normal, compared to Kaineng and Harvest Temple, they're not even close, right? Like, Harvest Temple is a big step up above even Kaineng, I would say. And I think both of them have enough mechanical depth to them and really a lot going on, especially Kaineng, actually. There's loads of stuff that can be happening there. They can make it really, really brutal. And hopefully, hey, look, we might even get a proper race to worlds first. You never know, right? With some of these next ones. But should be a lot of fun, I think. But anyway...
9 days from now.
Yeah, it's not even that long. Yeah, because it's every 2 weeks. Seriously, it's 2 weeks until Kaineng, then another 2 weeks till Harvest Temple. You better be ready. Better ready with some serious progression here. It's gonna get wild. But yeah, Sneb.
Rewards?
Do you want to talk a little bit about rewards? And what are you thinking?
They threw some coins at us, I guess.
Okay.
I've actually been speaking with a lot of people about this. I think rewards are very complicated because everyone feels rewarded in different ways. Sometimes people just like the idea of completing it. Some people like the title. Some people like the gold. Some people like getting materials. Some people like a series of achievements that get them a grander title. And so when we look at the reward system for strike missions right now, it feels like they're kind of missing it from every angle. I
was very polite.
They give you a title, I guess. So I guess the title's okay. But there's no like overarching reason to keep doing it. There's no like special currency for that. There's no legendary item. There's no big chase or big slew of achievements. It feels like it's very, very small. It feels like it's content that you complete one time and then you're kind of done because there's nothing to collect. Sure, there's a skin, but I don't know that one ascended skin is enough to really keep people going. That's my view. Maybe it is for some people. I think the completionists, yeah, sure. But beyond that, I feel like you're just kind of, there's not much reason to keep doing it.
Yeah, I really agree with that.
I have an example from the IBS strikes. I have every item you can get from the IBS strikes, every item. So I have all the skins, like all the, I don't even remember what they're called, but like that's the special armor skins. There's like 18 of them. I have all the mini pets, everything that you can get from the IBS strikes. I have all of them. That currency means nothing now. It is absolutely useless. I can keep collecting those shards, but I can't spend them. There's nothing to spend them on. Unless you just want ascended armor. But if you don't need the ascended armor or don't want it because, hey, you're kind of happy with what you've got, you can't spend those shards on anything, not even to get more gold. So to me, that's problematic because I think that same thing sort of occurs with the EOD strikes. Thankfully, you can spend those shards on things like, the weekly antique summoning stones stuff. But I think there's kind of a problem with that currency not having much value beyond some very specific things.
I actually disagree.
The chat's calling you out, Sneb. They're calling you out hard. You're getting exposed.
I'll be like the bridge between you then, because one of the things that you said, I think I really agree with, which is that there's a lot of different ways to make the content feel rewarding, right? But the problem is that they didn't even do it one way for, I think, the many different like subsections of like the community, right? It's like you said, you can have like the achievements, you can have raw gold, you can have this sense of prestige. I think a lot of them kind of fall short for everyone. Whereas if they had like, let's just say like, they dumped a really big gold bounty on it, right? Like you get 100 gold if you complete it for the first time. It would have at least satisfied the subgroup of people that are doing it for a monetary reward. But I feel like for all of the different people, it just feels like there's not very much. So as a whole, then since nobody is like super, super happy with the rewards, it just creates this like, I guess like group of people or the entire like, community that says like, oh, the rewards are bad, right? Whereas like, I think if they had like, again, just using the extreme example, if they had just dumped 100 gold on it, at least the gold farmers would have been like, oh, well, the rewards were good for me, But we don't really have anyone saying that right now, other than maybe the people who are going for like the prestige title. I think that's really like the only subset of people that I can think of that really think like, oh yeah, that was pretty cool. So
I think the chat is just validating what I said. Everyone feels rewarded in different ways, and I'm expressing that I don't feel rewarded by IBS strikes because they have all the mini pets and stuff. I don't even really care that much about them, but there's no way for me to get more gold or to get anything out of them, right? So if you feel rewarded by like a fancy title, or you feel rewarded by challenge, or you feel rewarded by, they're missing the mark on like a few different ways. If you just enjoy like collecting the little trophies like mini pets and stuff, then I think maybe it does an okay job at that. But there are problems where it feels like they get close to sort of fulfilling this reward for different people, right? Or like helping those motivations. But then they fall just a little bit short, right? Just a little bit. And I feel like if they added just a little bit more, that more people would feel rewarded in various ways.
Be talking about different things because
I actually think they're doing an awesome job. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you're talking about the blue shards to buy the ascended currency with, right? It's like the profit shards and stuff. I think other people are talking about the eternal ice shards, which you can convert into volatile magic.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah, but
I think you guys are talking about different things.
No. You can buy volatile magic.
Okay.
You can buy volatile magic directly with the crystals.
Really? Okay, I actually didn't.
You can.
How?
At the vendor. At the Vigil Emissary, I believe.
I'm about to log in and check this right now.
I'm on the wiki. I'm on the wiki right now.
If
and it says you can.
Case,
yes, Sneb, you're
case,
exposed. You are hard exposed, dude.
The reward system is.
This is career ending for you, I think, actually. Yeah, it says clearly here that you can turn it into volatile magic. It's probably trash, but you can do it.
I'm doing it now then because I have literally thousands.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, blue profit shards. Actually, the profit per shard is not bad, actually, to be fair.
How?
It's not bad.
I'm at the thing. There's nothing here.
You have to talk to the Vigil Emissary.
The Vigil Emissary. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
But you can actually. Okay. Do you know what? This is actually one of. Do you know what I really don't like about this? Do you know? I'm pissed. I'm mad, right? Because I've gone on fast farming right now. Did you know that it's actually not a good idea to buy the Mistborn motes and stuff to get volatile magic out? Because, oh wait, hang on. It turns out if you buy the Blessed Raven statuette and then sell that, vendor it, because it's just a 2 gold vendor item, that's actually better. Yeah. Yeah, it says I'm on the website right now. It clearly says that the profit per shard for buying the Blessed Raven statuette or some of this other crap, right, that you can buy here that then vendors is actually higher profit per shard than doing the volatile magic.
So
there you go.
For context, I had like 1,800 of these. If I buy them now, that's going to give me 60 gold. This is literally years of doing.
Wait, years?
Since they came out.
That's an exaggeration, Sneb. Have they been out for like years?
2 years? Have they been out 2 years, or is it a year and a half or something?
To be fair though, there's also other things that you get while doing the strike missions, like the Eternal Ice
Shards
and
the Icebrood Saga strikes are really rewarding. To kind of allow me to re-rail this discussion real quick because we've completely derailed, and I enjoy it. I welcome it.
This is really interesting because I had no idea that other NPC even existed, and that suggests that holy crap, it just is so complicated to.
This would have saved me so much time for Vision if I knew about this.
Icebrood Saga strike missions are legitimately okay. I know that people have a problem with the Icebrood Saga, and that's fair enough. But doing daily Icebrood Saga strike is honestly one of the most rewarding things you can do all day. It is so good. If I was going to do like a gold farming guide, Icebrood Saga stripes would be absolutely up there, right? They're obviously not fractal level, but they are absolutely really good. Are they absurdly overcomplicated and weird? Yes. But are they good if you know how it works? Yeah, they're actually really good. They're one of the best things you can do to like farm gold every single day. I do think there's a big issue with reward complexity in Guild Wars. And you know what? With vendors. You know what? Allow me to rebel. I'm a boomer, and I like to kill the boss, and the boss drops something, and it gives me the item. This is something that I have started to slowly loathe in Guild Wars 2, actually. I used to not care about it, but now that it keeps happening, and it got even worse in EUD, it is starting to annoy me, actually. You know what I like? I like dropping a boss, and it drops a Mystic Coin. You know what I don't like? Dropping a shard that I then go and talk to a vendor and click on a little UI icon to get a Mystic Coin. That's not fun, right? I don't like that. It's not enjoyable. It's annoying. It feels like busy work. Any rewardingness has been drained out of that transaction because of how bureaucratic it is, okay? Come on, Guild Wars 2 feels more and more like a goddamn office job, right? When you're actually trying to get your rewards out. It is unacceptable. It's so stupid.
People are roasting me because they're like, oh yeah, it's so complicated to check the wiki. Look, it actually is. To have to check the wiki for everything that you do all the time to be able to get and extract gold out of the things that you're doing. Yeah, after a while, I just stopped doing it because it takes so long. It's just really time consuming because the more that they add these currencies, the more time you have to spend figuring out how they all interact. And unless you have like, there's people that have like the big spreadsheets and stuff. Unless you understand that, you're either shortchanging yourself or you just don't know. And so I was wrong before, by the way, very clearly. And sometimes you're wrong, and that's okay.
It happens.
But holy crap, what this has done for me is made me realize that this is even more complicated than I thought.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm dying to share my hot take. Okay, so they buffs the gold rewards from the Straxiums. It used to be you would get 1 gold for the CM and 1 gold for the normal modes. And if you did the CM, you also got the normal modes reward like included. They made the Straxium give you 2 golds instead of 1. So if you haven't done the normal modes, it gives you 3 in total.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually more than most raids give you. Most raid bosses will give you 2 golds. So I actually think, and this is my whole take, if you are like in a good static group, you should absolutely run your weekly Straxiums. Because if there's 4 of them and there's no trash mobs in between, you just go boss, you get 3 golds. Every single boss, you get 12 gold in total. And I would not be surprised if there's like another reward at the end if you do them all in a week. You know, there's like a weekly clear rewards on the normal modes. I actually think Straxium for purely gold has gotten much better just if that's 1 extra gold. I actually think that's, people are still doing their race clear every week. I think Straxiums are like at least on par with that now. Of course, there's not like legendary armor. There's no legendary to chase, which is a bit sad. But if you're purely thinking goals, here's my whole take. I actually think Straxiums are pretty good. And I actually think that people are sort of in this mindset like, hey, Straxium wars kind of suck. But I don't know. I actually think they're better than a regular race wing at this point.
Yeah,
I'm really happy that they buffed them.
I agree, but there's a little asterisk there. They are actually pretty good if you can do it consistently.
Yes.
If you're going to struggle, it's not worth it, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is that, I can go find 9 people with 1 million KP and we go in and we get it in 1 pull. But I think for most players, it's going to take them a few times. And I think that's why the perception is that it's not rewarding, is because they can go do all this other content where they will be consistent and they will get the reward. And if they're not consistent at the other thing, then it's more rewarding to go with what they already know. And so I think that's where the perception is that it's not rewarding. But otherwise,
100%.
like, look, if you can one-shot every raid boss, raids are really rewarding. If you can one-shot all the CMs, then they're even more rewarding than the raids. But it's, can you do that, right? How many players can consistently do that?
Nice. My Discord
I risk
is frozen.
getting called like elitist or something here, but not fresh teapot. But I think to actually clear like raids and stuff really consistently doesn't really take too much, especially if you run ultra safe comps. Like I'm talking double, possibly even triple healer, like that sort of thing. I think actually clearing the raid bosses and kind of like in parallel clearing the strike missions, especially the CMs, if you kind of know the puzzles, you know the patterns, and you're not doing CM, it's actually pretty doable. But I think the problem is that there's no way for an average player to go from being an average player to be able to doing those things consistently. So I feel like this is kind of like we're looking at a symptom of the actual problem, if that makes any sense. Like the actual like solution that ArenaNet has come up with, I actually agree with Lara. I think it's fine. The problem is that it's a band-aid for a bigger problem, which is that it's not very accessible for people to actually get these rewards consistently. I think that's like that's something that I very firmly believe, because I've trained like people who have never stepped into a raid before. Now they're raiding without me. They've created their own like 5 CM per week static. That was completely that was like completely without me. And I like, I get a little FOMO, but it's okay. So it's like they're very capable raiders now, but they had to go through an external resource to even get to that point. And now I imagine they would probably agree. Like, if you're getting 2 gold per raid and then like the double reward for like the weekly raid or something like that, you're looking at like maybe 150 gold or something like that for maybe 3 or 4 hours if you one-shot every boss, which is not bad, right? And compared to most other things. But it's like it's the sunk cost before they get there that's not being rewarded. I think, like I said, I think this is just a symptom of a bigger problem. So
yeah. And I think that more people are doing it though. I wish I had data. I would love the data because this is just totally anecdotal, right? But my observation is that more people are participating in these things, or more people are interested in them. And I think it's a result of making some, they added some, for lack of a better word, mechanics to open world things in EOD, right? Some things dodge now, right? Or they will do a different attack or whatever, depending on if they're a veteran or a champ. And so there's more mechanics. People get used to that. And then people, they're being introduced to dodge. There's more telegraphs for some of the open world stuff. There's different mechanics. And then you've got Dragon's End, a bit of a DPS check, a little bit harder, right? Punishing mechanics. I think all of these things help encourage players to be like, oh, there's new opportunity. There's ways that I can improve my gameplay. And as a result, I think more people are doing the strikes. And then the strike normal modes are accessible enough to where, because there's no timer or anything, no DPS check, people get a taste of what instance content is like. And then they might be curious about the challenge mode. So I think they are trending that way. I think we're in growing pains now. It's how do they keep that momentum? And it sounds like they're going to keep releasing strike missions with strike CMs. And that's the momentum we need to set a culture of, doing instance content, grouping up with some people.
I think to me, it's sort of this jump, right? Like you do the regular UD strikes, you get 1 gold each. And I was like, hey, if you start practicing and you put in that time to learn how to one-shot the CMs, you get 3 times more gold for doing that. And I think that's much better than what it was. It used to be you would get twice as much, but now it's 3 times as much. So I think the thing is, like I said, I think that now strike CMs are on par, if not better than raid bosses. But the raid boss rewards by themselves are kind of bad. They get good if you one-shot them. But if you're spending hours and hours learning it, then of course getting 2 gold at the end is not really great. But I'm just happy that we went from strike CMs are pretty much worse than raids to they're at least on par. So yeah, there could definitely be more, this whole thing hey, they could put legendaries in there and all that sort of stuff. Because I'm just so happy that they doubled that gold. That you get free for CM now. That just, to me, that was already a great step. And of course, I want to see more. But I'm just glad that they fixed the thing that's where it was there's pretty much no reason to do it. Now there is a reason to do it. You get 3 times more gold if you do the CM.
Yeah, I think good point. It's the gold itself is quite valuable, but actually kind of bringing back what Teapot was saying earlier, sometimes you want to be able to click and acknowledge that you got the currency, right? It's when you beat the CM, it immediately goes into your wallet, and most people don't really pay attention to that scrolling bar of loot, so you don't even realize that you've gotten 3 gold. You don't realize that you're 3 gold richer. I think a very, I don't know how much easier it would be to implement, but an easy way to kind of bridge that gap is give you a consumable in your inventory that you can then press. And then it I'm thinking kind of this spirit shard bag, right? When you do your daily CMs, it's oh, there's a lot of content in the game, just leveling up after you reach maximum mastery. The spirit shard just goes into your inventory. You have no idea that you got an extra spirit shard unless you accidentally blew away everything around you in an AoE, because that's what happens when you level up, right? So it's having almost a physical thing to acknowledge hey, I got rewards from this, I think is really important. Because I'm a bit biased because I've been playing a lot of Path of Exile because the new league just launched. Getting a good drop, hearing that shiny sound when you hear an exiled hit the floor, it just makes all of the happy juices start flowing, right? It's kind of having that physical acknowledgement that I did something and then I got this reward, right? So it's having things go immediately into the wallet and then having this confusing UI and vendor system just makes something that actually is pretty good rewards feel like it's not really all that good. It's I don't know. I think that's something that I've been seeing more and more since I've been playing other games that have, I think, a much better system for actually triggering those happy juices.
Yes, but can we all agree that our inventories are already extremely cluttered?
Let me find my meme. I need to find my meme.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I'm gonna create a meme video where I have a backpack and I'm ooh, what's inside the backpack? And I open the backpack and there's 3 other backpacks. But then within those backpacks, there's a pile of rocks, a duck, and like 4 cabbages, and you're like, whoa! But then it just it fills your entire room over time. And I don't know. I agree with you, but I think they kind of do this with some of the meta events, right? They give you a chest and you click it, and then it tells you what you got, like for the currency and stuff. Then you click off of it, and some of the stuff goes in your inventory, some of it goes in your wallet. I'm more comfortable with that, but I do agree. I 100% agree. But please, my inventory, I'm so bad at managing it. I can't handle any more bags.
We need to start an inventory cleaning service. Just like temporarily give, I don't know, like the in game, there's like a window where you can give your inventory to another player for them to like click through. Of course, that has its risk. I'm kidding. But like, I would start an inventory cleaning service if I could, because my inventory is pristine. I see everything I get.
You know what?
Maybe what we need though is just like more exciting random drops, because that works in open worlds, right? Like people go in open worlds and they go to Death Branded Shatterer every day just for that idea of getting that infusion. They did it in raids, right? Like stuff like Pickler's Infusion, stuff like dropping the Doom Chair. Yep. Maybe that's what strike CMs are missing a bit, like that exciting thing.
Lottery drops. I've been calling them the lottery drops, the chase item, right? Something that's like crazy rare. You know that it's so unlikely that you're gonna get it, but there's still a chance. You're just gonna fight for that chance. Because look, I've never got a chalk infusion, but I've probably done chalk Jarrett like 1 million times, just because there's always the chance, right? The sliver of hope. But I can tell you, I haven't done forging steel a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a really interesting example, actually, because if you do forging steel quickly, it's actually not bad. You get liquid gold at the end of it. It's actually quite good if you can do it well. I have a few areas of criticism for the strike mission rewards. The first is that they aren't rewarding unless you can already do them. I think that's a really big issue, because it means that there's like this huge hurdle that you're asking the player to jump over before it's worth their time. The second one is actually that one of the key rewards in the game, Ascended Gear, strike missions suck for. I can't believe how bad they are, actually. So you have 160 shards a week, and a two-handed Ascended weapon will cost you 500 shards. That is actually hilarious to me. So you're telling me that if I want to, oh boy, Sneb, I can't wait to play my new power DPS scrapper with my two-handed hammer, you have to wait 3 weeks to get that.
Yep.
Do you know how long it would take you to farm that weapon and craft it? Probably 2 hours in open world.
It's like 50 gold or so, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
like
not very expensive.
2 hours or so. Maybe a day or two of fractals, compared to 3 weeks of doing strike missions. I mean, that is trash. Oh yeah, and good point, actually. Not only will you be investing all of your shards into this Ascended weapon, you also get 0 mystic coins for that week as well. So that kind of like one of the nice payouts you get is 10 mystic coins a week for the shards. Oh, wait, no, you can't get those, because if you do, then you don't have any shards left over, so fuck you. That's a really big problem, and then the final criticism would be that they are not replayable whatsoever. This is actually a bit of a niche complaint. It's the same as raids. I think that they should make... I don't think they have to be like amazing to constantly do. Like back in the day, like this was a really good thing about raids, is that every time you killed a boss, you would get some champion bags and some bags of gear. This was actually surprisingly good if you knew how to get value out of it, because you could open the bags of gear on a low level character to get linen out. It made repeating raids surprisingly okay, actually. You'd at least be able to pay for your food. But why do I want people to just be able to farm strikes all day? Actually, no. I want there to be a reason to basically pug throughout the week and keep playing, because I want players who have already cleared to have a reason to go back and play the content that they enjoy, because that means you're going to have more groups. You're going to have experienced players mingling in. This is a absolutely you know what? I love Data so much, guys. I really do. And I'm not talking about the Star Trek character. Here's the thing. If you look, yeah, he's all right. Okay, he's not bad. Picard, good show, actually. I'm enjoying Picard. But anyway, that's not the thing. if you look at raid success rates, they drop off a lot as the week continues. Why is that? Well, it's because all of the sweaty lords do it on day one and then fuck off until next week. They completely raid log. This is like a big... and the thing is, this isn't necessarily an issue. Like, lots of games have weekly lockouts, right? Like Final Fantasy does, like World of Warcraft does. This is nothing new. Okay, it's nothing crazy, but it's more of an issue in Guild Wars 2 because the population's quite low. It means that the population of raids just absolutely just tanks, right, after reset, and it makes it way harder to find a group. If you compare the LFG, for example, on a Monday compared to, let's say, a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday, it's very different, okay? Like, one is actually surprisingly active, and then it's quite barren later on. It picks up on Sunday as people panic and realize that they need to actually clear the content. But yeah, like those are some of the big criticisms I have when it comes to the strike wars. I actually agree that they are definitely worth doing, but they're worth doing if you already know how. Like, you know, a lot of people say, oh, but look, if you do like a 2-hour clear, raids are actually insane gold per hour. Yeah, but there's like 10 guilds who can do that. So maybe not that appealing for the for the average player. It's like, oh boy, I want to go play some raids. Okay, but like, oh yeah, you know, if you clear in, I think a full raid clear right now is worth something like 100 gold, I want to say, probably in that sort of region, maybe a little bit more than that. So yeah, if you do a 2-hour clear, it's like 50 gold an hour. But if you do a 4-hour clear, which is a lot more realistic, then you're down to 25 gold an hour. And you know what? There's one more thing I've got to comment in here. And I know that you guys bring this up, but nobody ever seems to acknowledge this, and it does drive me crazy. Even if you're doing this stuff semi-casually, if that's what we want to call it, it's still so much more effort than just AFKing and doing nothing in the open world, right? The amount of effort that you require to one-shot this stuff consistently, and even if you are really good at it, you still have to be focused, you have to be paying attention, you have to be ready to go, right? And you know, actively pressing your buttons. The amount of it, the intensity of the activity is so much higher than the open world that I think that's also another serious criticism of this. You know, the more intense an activity is, yeah, I think you should get more out of it. You know, the harder something is to pull off, yeah, you should be rewarded for that, right? And certainly the more difficult something is to get into, there should also be a bonus attached with that. And these are some of the issues where I think strike missions, and particularly the CMs, definitely fall over, and certainly raids is there as well, because raids basically the same thing. Okay, ran over. Discuss.
I remember I mentioned that a little bit earlier, probably while you were DC'd and stuff, but kind of just to like, I don't know. Here's just a thought. I don't know. They don't have to actually implement this, but I kind of want to get other people's ideas and thoughts on this. What if they implemented some sort of like weekend reward? Like, I know there's a few games that do this where on the weekends they kind of have like this bonus thing where it's like you have to complete a specific task or you have to do something. If there was something like that, what does everyone think? Do you think that the population would increase during that specific window? Do you think that, like, you know, it would incentivize like newer players to get to the point where they could do that? Yeah, I've never played Guild Wars 1, so I don't know for sure. But it's like, I just know a couple games kind of employ that, and it kind of like funnels people towards the specific thing that the event is like doing. And it kind of like incentivizes people where it's like, you know, on a day-to-day, you know, raids might not be that profitable. What if, let's say, like raids, strike missions, even PvP, World vs. World, for whatever that weekend event might be, suddenly gets like quadruple reward?
Yeah, I mean, doesn't Guild Wars 2, it's very seldom that they do this, but they occasionally do this, right? They have like the World versus World bonus or the PvP bonus, and I think to an extent it does attract people to those game modes. Maybe it's not quite as much as they want. I don't know. I don't have the data. But Guild Wars 1 did this as well, but what they would do is funnel people into very specific activities. So they would be like, all right, Fort Aspenwood, bonus experience from doing that, or they would say double your title gain for doing this. And so it would encourage people to go and play different parts of the game or work on very specific goals for that weekend because it's just twice as good to do it.
Yeah.
So
like, what if even more, right? Like, what if, like, let's say like a raid boss or something, you get 2 gold. What if that weekend, a specific raid with a bounty on it, you get 10 gold, 20 gold, 100 gold?
Oh, so just like a win. So
yeah, I'm just like I said, they don't have to implement this. I'm not saying this is the solution, but I'm just wondering what everyone thinks. Like, the player base would respond to something of that degree? At what point does it become too much, and at what point is it not enough? Because I think when we ask these kinds of questions, we can kind of think to ourselves, like, would you do it? If there was like this raid challenge on the weekend where you had to kill Sabbatha within between 9 a.m. PDT and 9 a.m. PDT and 9 p.m., would you do it for 2 gold? Would you do it for 4 gold? Would you do it for 10 gold? Would you do it for 100 gold? Right? It's like, at what is the threshold? Yeah, okay. 1 million, yes.
$1 billion
one chalk
gold.
exact, please. Yes. But it's like, at what threshold do you think players would suddenly see this as something worthwhile to do? I just think
like I like the daily system, like the daily strike. I want like a daily race wing or something, and then like you said, like make it like twice as rewarding or something, and then so you can't like full clear your race every day, but at least you have one wing you can do every
daily
day.
boss, daily wing.
Yeah, daily boss, daily race wing, daily strike CM. I'm almost kind of sad that they don't have that.
I'd like to see this system rolled out across the entire game. People talked about bonus weekends, from Guild Wars 1 and stuff like that. And ArenaNet do this sometimes, right? They call it boss rush, when they've done some things. Like they've done Fractal Week, they've done like Boss Week or whatever. I think stuff like this is really good because I think it makes players try out new things. For example, when they did the boss rush thing and it was about the core world bosses, holy shit. If you look at the LFG, it is like nothing else how many maps there are of everyone doing all of these world bosses. It is incredible. I have never seen anything like it. Like, it really showed me how many people... If you ever want to see how many people actually play Guild Wars 2, then wait for them to do a world boss event like that. It is insane. The rewards are okay, but they're actually not as good. It just turns out saying that it's special makes it feel special. Even if it actually isn't that special, doesn't matter. Just labeling it that, yeah, we'll get the job done. So when you're talking about the threshold, I think that's a really interesting point to bring up there about like how good does it need to be. I don't think it even needs to be that good. It just needs to be a little have
a label slapped on
it. Like bonus.
No. There's a little bit more to this though. Correct me if I'm wrong, really? But the tokens or whatever you got had a chance at giving you an infusion, like a super
any
rare
infusion,
no matter
that's
what
true.
boss you were doing.
Yes.
So people were kind of like, it's everything is now a lottery for like the best items in the game, like the rarest, most expensive items in the game, and it's not a ton of effort, and so it's very social, and so guilds and stuff would just like chill in Discord, and then they have this chance of getting an ultra rare item. So I think there's a little bit more to that. Like, is it that rewarding? No, but it's kind of low effort and it's fun,
it's
right?
The promise
and there's the lottery item.
Yeah, I think that's actually something really interesting, is that you don't necessarily have to give people rewards. You just have to give them the promise that there is one. It sounds a little bit scummy and a little bit malicious. Like, hear me out, right? So
true.
I'm gonna use fractals as an example, right? This is like a less malicious way of like saying it, but like, let's look at fractals, right? Tier 1 fractals are not really all that rewarding. You can probably go to Drizzlewood and you can farm it and more often, and even with all the dailies and stuff, right? But then you progress you go into fractals thinking, okay, when I get into tier 4, it's gonna be very rewarding. Right? But the honest truth is, I feel like a lot of people burn out before that. They don't even get to tier 4 because they're so sick of doing them every single day, right? But it was the initial promise that when they get to a certain level, they would be compensated for it, right? And the game gave them the tools to kind of like increase their skill to get to that point, right? So I so maliciously, like, they fake like increasing the chances of like an infusion dropping, but since like, I didn't mean it that way. I just meant it's like the idea, you don't have to have the reward right then and there. I think for a lot of people, it's kind of that feeling of like you're getting to the point where you can't get the reward. That in and of itself, I think, is a way to motivate people to get into this content. So
I think that's why people like learn raids, right? Like we've been talking about how raids are really bad while you're learning them. But it's the idea of like, once I learn it, I can clear it and I can get that goals more regularly. I do think that's true. I do think just the idea of like, if you invest, you're gonna make gold eventually. And then also the idea of like, there's a chance you might get that infusion. I agree. I actually think that's very effective.
Yeah.
If you're given
The
this,
idea
like,
is, like,
it's the
I'm not
lottery
trying to say
item,
they
I
should do
swear.
this. I'm just throwing out thought ideas because I think it's just like we see it all the time in very subtle ways, but nobody really acknowledges it because we just assume that, that's just how the game is, right? Someone brought up like, chalk air, and it's like, you don't go there with the expectation that you're going to get the chalk. You're there because there's a chance that you can get it. And it also, like, the event itself is not bad. You get like the daily amalgamated gemstone, you get like the little chalk bags, whatever it is. But it's kind of that feeling of like you could get it. It's this promise that this reward exists. And I think that's like very alluring for people. It's kind of like, I don't
It's
know.
also, have you ever seen somebody get one of these infusions?
I have.
I've never personally got it. I've had to buy online.
I've gotten an infusion from Drakkar, but beyond that, I've only witnessed other people get it. It's an event. When somebody gets one of these infusion drops, like, everybody freaks out. Like, the map chat goes crazy. Like, people are like, "Grats, oh, that's crazy. Now you're rich." Like, and it's just really exciting, right? So it's the prospect that something really exciting could happen to you or someone around you, right?
Yeah.
And that's fun. I don't know. It's not that it's
Yeah. I think also it's like you said, it's a very social in nature, right? It's like if you get a fancy drop yourself and you have no one to share it with, it's like, did you actually get a drop, right? It's like, it's the idea that you get this thing and then you can share it with the community. And I think kind of funneling the community into like a specific event, whether it's like every week or every few months or something, whatever it is that they're doing, I think that's a really cool idea because it basically ensures that you have a community there to celebrate with you if things go well. And it also ensures that you have a community there with you if things go bad, right? It's like if you sit in LFG, we're kind of derailing from like strike missions and stuff, but like imagine if you just sit in LFG, you're like, looking for a group to like try out Anka CM progression or something like that, and then nobody joins, you're not really going to want to do that again because then you just feel alone and you just feel like there's nobody here that's really like supporting me or anything like that, right? So it's like the community aspect is very much missing, whereas I think with this kind of little like thought experiment, like I think a lot of people can acknowledge is like that sense of community is very important, and I think we all kind of take it for granted when we do have a community, but it's glaringly obvious when there's not. I think that's one of the points I really wanted to bring up because it's like, no offense, Gilverse, or any ArenaNet devs are in here. I don't really log into the game for myself anymore. Like I have over 8,000 hours in this game. There's very few reasons for me to log in for myself to farm currency. Like what am I farming currency for, right? But I log in because there's a group of raid trainees that need help, or because someone needs like a fill for like their fractal group, or maybe like a bunch of people are doing like the Dragon's End meta and they wanted to know if I wanted to, like, I come in very much for the social and community reasons. So
there's a sense of belonging, right?
yeah,
That's
exactly.
community.
I think, and I think I just to bring it back to the strike mission, I think there's very little of that. I think since the pool of people that actually do endgame content is already so low, even just incentivizing people to try it out would make more people receptive to actually playing with the group. But right now it's like, even if you tried it out, you got no one there. You don't have anyone that's there, right? It's like you're just by yourself. But if you had like, a bunch of people there that were all willing to try it out, then that opens up doors for, I don't know, people to actually get into the game. So
I am going to admit something horrible. I once dropped a Iridium infusion in Tower and I didn't notice it.
Did you vendor
Like
it?
I just dropped it, and then the next day someone was like, "What's that amulet in your inventory?" And I was like, "Oh, I guess I dropped the infusion yesterday." So how we were talking about how it's like an event and everyone on the map is excited.
You
didn't
denied
notice
that.
it. And yeah, I denied them that by just not paying attention.
I'm gonna link the clip.
There's the clip. There it is. And that is pretty funny.
It's pretty horrid.
Yeah.
But you were probably pretty excited in that clip.
I was excited once I figured it out. Yes.
There's the hype.
I was not excited on the day itself because I did not notice.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what End Dragons is lacking in general. I was talking with Sneb about this, and oh god, he destroyed me in debate. It was horrible. It was a humbling experience. But yeah, we kind of agreed that it would be really good if every EOD meta had a big, like, ultra rare drop attached to it. That would certainly motivate players to go for it. Maybe the same needs to happen for strike missions as well, right? I think whenever we talk about this, though, it has to be like the full suite, right? This is what Sneb was alluding to right at the beginning, right? It's got to have a little bit of everything, right? And you can put your mega drop, right, onto all these meta events, but in a way that isn't good enough, right? And, you know, I feel like, you know, it's very easy to sound overly picky when we're talking about rewards. And we're like, oh, you give us our rewards, give me my pixels, right? But it is important, right? Like, players want to feel like, you know, they want to progress towards goals. They want to be moving towards something. And if the game doesn't do that, then yeah, they probably aren't going to engage with that area of the game. And it has to be like the full suite. It can't just be like, oh yeah, you get 1 gold and there's like a 0.001% chance you get 10,000 gold. So that's still going to feel shit, right? I think what a lot of other games do, and I think I would imagine, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, Emmy, but games like Path of Exile probably do this extremely well, where you have a lot of kind of drops that are like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. You have some drops that are like, oh, yeah, that's really nice. And you have some drops above that are like, oh, shit, that's really good. And Guild Wars 2 really struggles with this. It's usually, or, oh my god, right? There's nothing in between, right? You don't have that, oh, this is like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Not bad. I don't mind that. Funnily enough, Icebrood Saga does actually. For example, if you do the first strike mission, Sheer Peak Pass, it actually has a decent chance to drop a 4 gold item, right? The magical
like the
snowflake, right?
Yeah,
and all of them have the 2 gold drop from the Raven Sanctum as well, and then there's another drop chance from the Whisper of Jormag, and these are all worth like 2 gold, and then the Ice Crystal is like 4 gold or something like that. That's again like, oh yes, that's really nice. It's a nice drop. I guess they don't really have like a super high end reward, but this is kind of the issue, right? They've got the high ends, they've got like the oh, not bad, but they don't have the really big stuff. Strike missions kind of have the like, okay, right, it's decent gold per hour, but they don't really have that big like, oh, this is a really exciting reward. Raids, again, they're pretty consistent. They have some high level rewards as well. Like, you know, you drop the Ghostly Infusion, but honestly, I don't even think those exist. I think those are actually added by the Peerless Infusion. I've never seen it drop. That doesn't exist. I'm pretty sure the devs just made that one up. But yeah, you know, that's pretty good. But yeah, I think that's what's missing, is that the rewards need to have this full spectrum, the complete package. Otherwise, it's not going to feel quite right. It's always going to feel a little off.
Precisely.
I think it's always going to feel off in general, I think, in Guild Wars 2, because the reward system is very complicated, a lot more complicated than just vertical progression. But it could be better, I think, by just filling in the gaps.
Yeah, I mean, this is why the discourse on rewards is so poor, right? And everybody just like beams each other about it. They're like, oh, no one would do it if you... And what they really mean is, I wouldn't do it if that was the reward, right? So when I talk about things that I feel would be more rewarding, everyone's like, yeah, right, buddy. And totally respect that, because for them, it's probably stupid. but they're just motivated by something different, or they would feel more rewarded by something else. And so when you attack this from all angles, you allow everyone to feel like it's worthwhile. And that's really what we need, because I actually feel like there's a few meta events and things that do this really well. Like the Heart of Thorns ones, I think are really smart, because there are particular skins that you can get. There's a big lotto item. You get map currency, which enables you to get like legendary armor or other things like that. It just comes from all these different angles, and it's so important that you do that, because then everyone has a reason to want to be there.
Yeah.
Is this the time that we start talking about Mystic coin drops and fractal CMs again?
Ooh.
I
You know,
seen it.
you know what's funny though? I feel like Fractal actually did extremely well. Like, you can kind of meme about the Mystic coins, but even maybe the CMs not so much anymore. But fractals in general, definitely. You have a very consistent reward for just, you know, it even has some randomness in it, right? So you can like luck out and get more gold sometimes than another, you know, you have like a crazy hard, get loads of liquid gold from your, you know, opening up all your encryptions every day. So you have that, but then you also have like the medium roll of Ascended Gear. And then you actually do have a high roll item, which is the Fractal Tonic, right? And a few other kind of super rare items, right? So I think fractals in terms of rewards are actually really well structured, I would say, anyway. And you also have the pity timer as well, because, you know, if you get really unlucky, you can just buy the Fractal Tonic and buy a lot of the rewards with pristine relics. That's probably one of the most well fleshed out systems. The only criticism, I guess, that I would have, and I imagine it's exactly why ArenaNet don't just copy and paste fractals, is because they give you way too much liquid gold, right? Oh man, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for saying this, but I'm sorry, guys. Like fractals, ArenaNet probably can't just copy that because they are insane. They are ridiculous. Hey, so just to explain here, guys, when I say liquid gold, I mean coin, right? I'm not talking about, just getting like materials. I mean actual just wallet gold immediately. The reason why this is a bit of an issue is because, hey, look, there's cards on the table here. ArenaNet want you to buy gold. They want you to buy gems. Gems are gold, right? These are essentially the same thing. They can be converted. They are the same thing. They want you to buy those. And if they give you too much of that in the game, well, I've got some bad news, right? That's obviously going to affect their bottom line significantly, right? If you aren't going to be encouraged to essentially spend money to obtain rewards in the game, that's not good for their profit. And as a result of that, like too much of that, it messes with the economy. And because the economy, again, is linked to the bottom line of the game, that is very, very bad for them. I wish we had numbers on this, but I feel like fractals are probably responsible for so much wallet gold in the game. It's actually insane, right? Like, what else gives that much liquid gold on a daily basis? Yeah,
the 2 gold daily.
Yeah, that's big. That is big, actually.
Because that's accessible for everyone, right? It's like anyone can do the 2 gold dailies.
Yeah, 2 gold dailies. So yeah, bauble farm stuff, right? But in general, almost everything you get is you sell it to another player, and when you sell something to another player, that sucks gold out of the economy, right? Because 15% of it gets eaten by tax. So that's why they've got to be careful with that. But if they just modified fractals a bit to maybe be a bit more material focused, I guess, as opposed to gold, just copy and paste that, boom, done, easy.
Actually, I just not thought of this, is what if we're looking at this the wrong way, right? We're thinking about adding new rewards. I feel like maybe something a bit more simple and a bit more straightforward is to just make the existing rewards more valuable. Now, that could be another way of looking at it, right? Because it's like we were kind of talking about the blue profit shards and everything. It's like you can convert them into liquid gold, but what if like you could use that to get, I don't know, what if you could buy the title that way? Right? It's like you could like an example would be like I'm Richido. You could buy like 2,000 gold with that. What if we just repurpose the existing rewards to be more valuable? Whether it's because you can buy like an in-game mount skin, or you can buy like, I don't know, like the title, like we were saying, or easier ways to access like, I don't know, like the ascended rewards. Like you can technically do that, but like you said, in terms of like gold, it's not really worth it. But I feel like a lot of the times when we think about like adding new stuff, we kind of forget about like the development work that goes into that, right? And developing takes money, it takes time, it takes like, testing, and like, a lot of the times people are reluctant to try something completely new because you never really know how that's going to affect the community, right? So it's like just an easier way of actually going about it is just to make the current rewards more valuable. I think that's just like tweaking an already existing system.
Yeah, so. I at first, I'm not gonna lie. At first, I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know how that would work. But as a raider who gets a lot of ascended armor that I have no use for and is pretty much worthless to salvage. Well, I mean, it does give you some raid currency, I guess. But otherwise, it's really not that good. I'm thinking, if they gave me other ways for that item to be worth something, then yeah, all the content would feel more rewarding to me instantly. If you made ascended items, I don't know. Some give research notes now, so I guess in a way they kind of have done that.
Yeah, but I don't know the exact solution. I just feel like it'd be easier to repurpose an existing system than to add new things that you don't really know the far-reaching consequences of.
Yeah, I mean, the way that you make things more valuable is you add more uses for items, like they did with research notes, because there was a whole lot of items that were worth 4 copper on day 1, 2 months later are worth 3 silver, right? And yo, I got in on that train. That was good. If you were on my stream, I said, everybody buy all of these now, and we bought them out, and then anyway, but yeah, like if you add more utility.
You know what's actually wild though? Like fishing is extremely rewarding.
True.
Like,
it is?
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the ambergris, right?
It's because of the ambergris, and people need that for their legendary. Yeah. Like, what if like these strikes give you an item that you need for your legendary, and you just either keep it or you sell it? It
That'd be
seems really
so
smart.
good.
Just like tie the legendary to this rewards, and like if you want to do your legendary but you don't want to do the strikes, you just buy it on the TP. If you want to do your strikes but you don't want the legendary, you just sell them on the TP.
Oh
You know
shoot!
what?
Like
I
the
am-
antique summoning stone kind
you
of.
know what,
thing.
Lara?
exactly.
I'm kicking you from the podcast because I was about to say that, and you
Oh,
stole my
shit.
glory,
I like
so you're done. No, I mean, no, you know, all jokes aside, I think that's a fantastic idea. No, I really do. I think that what's always been lacking in Guild Wars 2 is what's the end game? What am I doing again? Why am I playing this game? What am I doing? And I think the only good answer to that is legendary items. Or if there is no right answer, right? Because, you know, it's a very open-ended game. But if there was going to be an answer, it would probably be legendaries, right? I think. So, yeah, I think it would be really, really good if ArenaNet used every reward structure in the game to somehow hook into legendaries and get players trading with each other. I think that would be ideal as well, because I think we need to really get your thinking cap on and realize, what do players actually value in the game and why do they value it? Because if I was going to say what do people value, I'd almost certainly say gold. But why do they value gold? Well, it's kind of because of skins, and a lot of the time that is legendaries, right? They want to get, you know, they want to craft their legendary weapon. Yeah, quality of life.
Quality of life is really big. Like permanent bank contracts, permanent merchants, larger inventory slots. Like people pay for QOL. And I remember actually reading like or not reading, I was watching this video on like how MMOs kind of get you sucked into the game, is that they deliberately remove QOL. That way you can farm it and you have this long-term goal. It's like, you know, like if we think about it, the coding aspect of being able to access your bank anywhere is probably not too difficult, right? It's already there, but they intentionally remove it. That way you have something to go after, right? So it's like, I think a really big thing that players chase after is QOL. And once they have the QOL, they just move on to the next thing that gives them QOL.
Yeah, QOL/utility. Maybe it's kind of the same thing. Because I've been saying the Zera portal is what got me into raiding. Because the Zera portal was so good, right? Because I didn't have to play Mesmer. That was such a good item to me.
Great for
and
Drakkar.
I think lots of people like, I needed the portal for Drakkar. Because then if I played Mesmer, I had 2 portals and I could double it up, right? I thought that was like so cool. So I think items, but the problem is like, at some point, don't you just kind of run out of things to
exactly
have for?
And I think that's exactly the thing, right? Is like you look at like a lot of veteran players, once they've run out of QOL things to chase after, they have a full set of like a full wardrobe of like legendary items. Like they can change their gear whenever, they have their weapons, they have like, you know, their infinite like, I don't know, repair canisters that are, they leave. Like once they don't have anything else to chase after, they stop playing, right? So it's like, I think, I don't know. I don't want to, like, I feel like this is going to make me look so bad, but if they remove more QOL things and added them as stretch goals, I imagine more people would probably continue playing the game. But
maybe some people wouldn't start. Imagine you have no inventory slots. Every time you walk around, you're encumbered and you have to constantly delete.
No, I'm not saying they have to do this. I'm
just to reset NPC.
Emmy says to remove all quality of the life from the game baseline.
Reset. Every expansion,
delete
you have to start over from scratch.
Reset all gem purchases every expansion.
Yeah, every
all temporary.
Everything disappears. No, I'm just kidding. It's like, please don't do that, Aina. I'm like half memeing, but like I'm trying to say that to like illustrate a point, right? It's like a lot of the things that we kind of take for granted once we're a decent chunk into the game is like we take our inventory space for granted. We take our shared inventory slots, our like bank stat. Like I started an alt account not too long ago, and only having 2 bank slots. Nothing. I can't fit anything in there, right? And then it's like having multiple character slots so you can play every class, having like, I don't know, like gem store skins so you don't have to worry about fashion wars. These are all QOL things that, you know, we very much take for granted once we've been playing the game for a while. So yeah, no,
I like that. You know, that's
don't ban me.
That's such a good point, though, right?
Don't ban me.
But right now, as a player who's played for a long time, who's done all the raids, who has legendary armor and stuff, you're right. This is what I'm going after. I go after any item that has like utility or like a unique aura or whatever, right? So I'm going after permanent contracts. I'm going after, there's this item that you can get from doing the collection for Juggernaut or something that makes you all shiny. Like you go after those like weird little random quirky things, or you go after stuff that has big utility. I went and got all 32 slot bags on my main character, right? Yeah. Like but at some point, what do you do when you get all those? I think that's like the 0.001% though that has all of that stuff. But it's those items that do attract people because they have value. So the people that do have all the gold will pay the person who got super lucky and got the chalk infusion or whatever to get the infusion. Now that person has a ton of gold. I think that more items like that is a good thing. But what else do you add? What else can you possibly add? I guess I just have the creative mind for that.
Briefer.
Yeah,
that's the solution to all of this.
I think
ArenaNet legendary Aqua Briefer.
Oh, please, yes.
I think
I can't. I need it bad.
ArenaNet has two things. ArenaNet are a bit limited. Like you can dance around this issue, but you know what? Oh, here we go. So ArenaNet have got a really big problem here, and it's that. And look, you're not gonna like this, chat. You're not gonna like this. But ArenaNet can't ever really give you good rewards in the game that aren't really expensive in terms of gold and tradable. Why? Well, because that's what they sell. That's how they make money. If they give you really good rewards in the game, then why are you going to buy anything? If they give you quality of life in the game, then why are you going to buy anything from them? And then the game shuts down and we don't have a game and we're really, really sad. So there are a few categories that we will never see in the game. I can guarantee it. And that's going to be mount skins. That's going to be most glider skins. It's going to be boat skins, skiff skins, right? All this kind of stuff. Like that's, and honestly, account features like bag slots, character slots, build templates. That is always going to be there in the cash shop, and it will never make it to the game. It's just not going to happen. And legendaries, they have to be expensive because, again, they want it to be this very grindy item that ultimately will cause you to buy real money, buy gold with real money, and then accelerate your progress. Like that is a core part of the game that will never go away. It has to be this way. They can't give you stuff that's too good in the game for that exact reason. However, there are a few and funny enough, this is why infusions are tradable a lot of the times. Again, so you can, so that players can spend money on them. But here's the deal as well. There are a few things that aren't in the cash shop, and that's infusions can be there and legendary weapons. So I think that those two systems need to be presented as the core endgame progression systems. So basically like these really extreme cosmetics. I think what Lara was talking about, right? Like tying in legendary weapons to strike missions, but you can still buy them, right? Like you could even make it on the strike mission CM. That would be really exciting, right? You have to do a strike mission CM to get a legendary weapon variant. That's actually possible, by the way. We've got the Zaitan weapons coming up soon. What if you actually have to be Anka CM to actually craft one of these things, or you can simply buy one of these items? That's maybe there's a little copium there, but you never know, right? Something like that could be in play, right? Like that's a really good way to make these things rewarding. An infusion could drop from all these things, or there could be a way to even build an infusion over time, right? Or farm the currency to build an infusion, then you could sell it to another player or something like that. Like these, I think, are the ways to actually make this content have some longevity and make it rewarding while also not compromising ArenaNet's business model. There you go.
I want legendary bag slots so I can change the type of bag slots to be invisible or like equipment, or I don't know. I mean, make all of the meta events have like some sort of like drop that allows you to buy legendary bag slots. Make it happen.
I want legendary gathering tools.
That would be so cool.
Never gonna happen.
You wouldn't buy it.
It's never gonna happen.
Oh, that would be so good, though.
It would be so good. It would be one of the best things they could add to the game in terms of quality of life. But unfortunately, because they sell the tools individually, it will never happen. Unfortunately, the best you can do right now, there is actually a trick you can do for this. Is it's a bit annoying, but you can do it. If you have 3 shared inventory slots, you put your gathering tools in those 3 shared inventory slots, and what you do is you have you have regular gathering tools on all of your characters, and whenever you relog, you just swap them, so you can kind of do that. But yeah,
that's so annoying.
It's very
You get
annoying.
like
Yeah.
J scores, like
Yeah.
just having one tier 10 J score. I'm too lazy. I just get like 8 of them.
Yeah.
Don't wanna deal with that.
They can maybe do legendary food. That'd be pretty good.
Oh yes,
They did add
delicious.
ascended food, so
Yeah, could happen.
Mhm.
Could
Yep.
happen. Yeah, good.
But back with like strike missions and stuff, right? Because I think we kind of like derailed this into like talking about strike mission rewards and then just rewards in general. I feel like I was kind of mentioning it earlier, but I feel like the problem with strike missions and just strike mission rewards is not necessarily like how much money you're making from them. It's just that you don't have any of the resources to actually get into doing them, and especially doing them consistently, right? So it's like I kind of did this in the last TeaTime too, because we've been talking a lot about like what ArenaNet can do for us, but what do we think that we as the community can do to help that, right? It's like obviously we can run like trainings and stuff, but like I don't know, like is there anything else? Like what if we I don't know. I am like drawing a blank, but
to
it's
help
like
with what? Rewards?
no, just getting people into strike missions, doing them, like providing the resources for them to do that. Because I feel like at the end of the day, we can yell at ArenaNet all we want, but if they're not going to do anything because they either don't have the development power or they don't think it's worth doing, it's never going to happen, right? So like, what can we as the community maybe do to help facilitate that?
You can take people like me and slap them in the face and say, look at this NPC right next to the strike chest that gives you the volatile magic for the currency. And show them that it's more rewarding. No, but I think the best thing that the community can probably do is create an environment where people can ask questions without punishment, right? So
social consequence.
Where people can just be like, hey, I don't know this, or I don't understand this, and encourage those questions and keep people hungry for more knowledge. Because as you do that, people will feel comfortable and they'll learn a lot faster. I think right now the culture in the game is such that people are very afraid, and I mean, this is just kind of life, right? But people are very afraid to be vulnerable. They're very afraid to show that they don't know something. And so that really hurts in endgame content like with strikes and stuff, because if somebody doesn't know how the gear system works, or they don't really understand what the stats do, or they don't understand a subgroup, or they don't understand the mechanics, and they don't ask, everyone's going to have a bad time, because that person's going to constantly die. Maybe someone gets mad in the group and then they have a negative experience with that, and then maybe they don't try it again. So encouraging people to feel comfortable not knowing something, and then asking questions and helping them, showing them where the resources are, taking them into the golem. Yes, this requires some effort. If you want to go the extra mile, that's what you do. If you want to do just your little part to make things better, you go, hey, I was in your shoes once. I get how this is. Some resources I use to help me out are X, Y, and Z, or here's a Discord where I know there's a couple people that often help people. Doing these things dramatically help. Just that those little things add up to a whole lot of culture shift. And that's what we need, is more people to be more comfortable asking questions.
Yeah, I agree. One of the ideas that I had briefly, and I actually did it one time with a decent amount of success, but I just don't have the time to do it all the time, is I just popped a tag, put myself in actually the raid like LFG, and said, feel free to ask any questions here. And I actually had a decent chunk of people just come in and be like, I don't even know what raids are. How do I get started? Right. And obviously I can't just like tag up and start like leading a raid training right then, but I redirected them towards resources, right? Be like, on NA, there's Guild Wars 2 Raid Academy, or like you can read on the wiki here about how to like gear your character and like that sort of thing. And I don't know, maybe it's like just like very self-centered to say this, but I think it really helped those people. Like I started seeing those same people because I remembered their names and everything. I started seeing them joining like different communities and stuff. And I think I mentioned this on like the last TeaTime Tuesday. I'm kind of recycling content here, but it's like you don't have to make everyone into like a pro raider, right? Like you don't have to change 100% of the community to be the type of person that you want. A lot of the times you just need to like kind of like propagate like your like positivity or like your knowledge across like 2 or 3 people. And if those 2 or 3 people then do it to another 2 or 3 people, and then those 2 or 3 people do it to even more people, then it kind of it's like Sneb said, it has this like culture shift that happens, right? And then more people are
ultimate
willing.
pyramid scheme. It really is.
Yeah.
Look,
yeah,
if
it's
I train 10 people, they train 10 people. Suddenly, everyone's trained.
Yeah. So it's like I think a lot of the times we focus a lot on like this idea of perfection, right? It's like we need them to like perfect this system so that everybody can do raids. And I think that's kind of a flawed mindset because you don't need everyone to do raids. You just need a few more people. And every time you get a few more people, the whole everything just kind of gets better. So yeah. I just
first time clear bonus. This is like something
Yeah.
ArenaNet has
true.
to do though, but
Mhm.
like I've been playing a bit of Final Fantasy and they do this thing where if someone in your party has never done it, everyone gets like a tiny bonus.
Big.
And
Mhm.
I would love that. It would definitely get abused, but I don't
Mhm.
even care. I think it would
Yeah,
like
I
do
think the
so much
positives
good.
would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like, you know, also because it would like help also out people that are training. They would get like a big first time clear bonus and stuff. So more people might want to get into training and experience groups might want to take newer people with them and stuff. I think it would be such an easy change for like such a great build. But that's again something ArenaNet has to do instead of us as a community.
You know, the big thing that, in my opinion, needs to change is that people need to be comfortable to make groups. So there needs to be this cultural idea that, one, you don't actually have to know the fight if you're a commander. It just means you're going to organize the squad. That's your only responsibility. Other than that, you know, you can go in and like, you can make a new group and I've never done it before, right? Like, for example, when I first did all the strike missions, I'd never done them before. I just tagged up and boom, in we go.
Yeah.
And you can start. And the reason why this is so important in my mind is because the way the game is right now encourages bad behavior. And what do I mean by that? Oh, what a cliffhanger. Because getting into a group is like it's a mythical creature. It means that players are far more likely to not speak up about not knowing something. I mean, I did an Aetherblade CM today. I was having a great time. You know, I'd been up all night, just, you know, nice, relaxing challenge mode before bed. And I said in the LFG, Aetherblade CM, be experienced, no mechanics. And we're having a good time. 5 or 6 people joined from the LFG. We go for the boss, start the boss. It is clear that every single person who joined from the LFG has no idea about the mechanics. I know this is within 3 seconds because they have no idea how the green works. They have no idea how the bomb works. They have no idea how anything works. But why did they do that? What happened there? Well, it's because
I kind of know.
Well, it's because I was the only group in the LFG for this particular strike, right? And yeah, like, and they, as a result of that, they didn't say no. Because the thing is, though, Sneb, I asked them, have you guys done this before? They actually said no, right? They admitted that they had never done it before.
Oh, okay,
right?
Well, that's a bit different.
Yeah, no. It wasn't a case of they thought they did, but they didn't. No, they actually said that they haven't done it before. They just joined the group anyway.
Very odd.
And I just got on voice and we got the job done, right? You know, I just said, hey, this is how it works, guys. You know, you should probably, you know, make sure you know if you say that, you know, if you know the mechanics, you got to actually know them. But I think that behavior is encouraged because otherwise players just think they're never going to get into a group, right? They're going to, I want to do this challenge mode, but I can't because there are no groups and I can't make one myself. So we just need to make it so there are enough groups that getting into a group isn't rare. Then I think players are going to be way more likely to actually communicate and say, hey, you know, I'm new here, right? Can you help me out here? Because right now, players are so scared of getting kicked because they don't know. That they will just lie basically and try and like figure out how to get through it, which by the way is still a really bad behavior. You shouldn't do that. Every time that happens, it's like a lot of commanders would have just immediately quit in my position. They would have gone, okay, fuck this. You know, these people have disrespected me. I'm not wasting my time. It's one of the most toxic things you can do is join a group that you don't meet the requirements for. It is very toxic to do that. It destroys the integrity of the raiding scene or any kind of group scene like that. But we should make the environment where people don't feel incentivized to lie, basically.
I think leading by good example is one of the best things that we can do. And I think often it's a thankless job, right? It's like you're nice to people and sometimes you just get shit on for it, right? But it's something that I think, like, you know, a lot of the times when you look at like community leaders, whether it's in a video game or even in the real world and everything, but like the people who are able to like facilitate success do so even when it's unprofitable to do so themselves, right? So it's like, I think like just using your example, right? It's like in most cases, commanders would have just left, either because they don't have the energy, they don't feel like they have the skill to actually pull it off. Maybe they just like, you know, feel disrespected and they want to leave and everything. But in your case, you went through it. You pulled them into voice chat. You got the kill. And I imagine there's probably, but like, so
no
like,
mercy.
I imagine a decent chunk of them will probably look back at that and think, oh, you know, in the future, maybe I can like pass on the kindness, right? Like even if 90% of them don't, I think maybe it's wishful thinking, but I like to think that leading by positive example is one of the best things we can do to kind of change this culture of selfishness into one that's a bit more selfless. So yeah.
I actually think a huge factor here is that right now making a good group composition is a little bit complicated, and a lot of people are scared to tag up because they don't understand how to like how many unlocks you need and quickness and who can do what and all that stuff. It's gotten pretty complicated. I wish the LFG would like have like support for that, like where you can like tag people's different roles and stuff, and then you write in your LFG looking for Alak, and then you get 4 people who join who say that they're DPS. So yeah, I kind of get why people are spooked to make their own group. I am spooked to make my own group. Genuinely.
Well, you know what? Let me actually push back a bit against that. You know what? No, I've had enough. People say this all the time. People say that all the time, actually. And you know what? I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that statement at all. Because I think everyone here on the podcast right now, huge wrinkly brain, loads of ridges, massive, vast. Chat, they're not too bad, right? Okay, decent sized brain, a large number of wrinkles. I do not believe that any player in the game is incapable of understanding quickness in both groups, alacrity in both groups, probably a healer in both groups, bunch of random DPS nobody cares. That's it. Congratulations.
They can. I think there's people like spooked of it. Like, what if I do this incorrectly?
Let me go off here.
Activated.
I'm so activated by this.
Oh wow.
Look,
Sneb's mad.
Teapot.
He's big mad.
When they balanced it so that you have to have like 2 of everything, and then they made a whole bunch of new specialization stuff also provide these boons, it has become so annoying to try to remember who's playing what, who's giving what, who can give what, who's doing what boons are what. I was in a Doom the other day and I mentally broke because I had 3 firebrands, like 2 scourges, some mechanists. I had no idea who was giving alacrity, who was giving quickness, who was the tank, who was, because somebody's like, I'm the heal brand, but I'm not the tank. The quick brand's gonna tank. It just like, it's very complicated now. It's very confusing. And then you add that on top of the fear of rejection and people like, you know, rebuking you for not knowing something. And then you layer that on, like, you have to have all this knowledge about who does what mechanic, or you don't, or you just have to accept that you're not going to know. And some people don't like that. They want to go in prepared. You add all these layers on and it is really stressful. It is, even for me sometimes now. Like, I look at the squad and I'm like, I have freaking no idea who's playing what. And the only way I'm going to know is if I like interrogate each person. But that also means that each person has to know, you know, what they're doing. It's just like a lot of organization, a lot of knowing all of these different things. So you can tell people, yeah, you just need to make groups. You need to just go in and do the thing. But it's more complicated than that, because the setup and the organization of doing that, or finding 9 other people that are willing to have you kind of figure that out and learn it on the fly, it's like kind of time consuming and it takes a while. And so I really don't blame players now when they're like, oh, I don't like making my own groups, it makes me uncomfortable. It's because there's just a lot of moving pieces. And so even if you are comfortable going in not knowing, you have to find 9 people who are going to be accepting of that. And if you do that in the LFG, you're going to have this like constant rotation of players coming in and out of your group, which only exacerbates the problem of figuring out who's playing what, who's doing what. It's like this never-ending cycle to me. I find it very complicated. And so I feel like we have to respect that players do not like making their own groups or uncomfortable making their own groups because the systems make it difficult to tell what people are playing or doing.
No, thing is, I need to debate Sneb here. Sneb, you're going to lose this debate. You're going to lose this debate, dude.
Now, I will be victorious.
I don't disagree with that. I think we should respect people on this. But to me, it is a simple knowledge gap, right? And I think that this knowledge can be expressed.
It is a knowledge gap. And I think a bigger knowledge gap than you're putting out.
I think it's a big knowledge gap, but I think that players can get the hang of it very quickly. I don't think it's actually that complicated. Particularly seeing as it doesn't have to be perfect as well. As long as it's good enough,
you don't have to have a perfect team comp. I think this is the really big thing I really want to stress. You don't need to have perfect quickness, perfect alacrity, perfect healing, 100% scholar uptime in order to beat a boss. Right?
No,
all you need, you just need a handful of healers, handful of someone who knows that they're tanking, and then DPS that aren't eating every single mechanic, which, that might be a tall order, but it is significantly easier to find a group that can fulfill those requirements than people that can fulfill the perfect list of requirements. Like, I think this is just like, a lot of people think that they're speedrunners, but they're not. In a lot of cases, you don't need perfect scholar uptime in order to beat the boss. The enraged timers, especially in like raids and stuff, I think the strike CMs are actually quite difficult in terms of the DPS check. But with Matthias, you can do it with 10 heal LE. You can like reflect on like the magnetic, whatever it's called. You can do it with 10 heal LEs. There's nothing stopping you from doing that.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I 100% recognize that. But the problem is that most players want to go in and have some chance of winning. And if you're new to the fights and the encounters, then you want to play stuff that's a little bit more powerful. And having those boons is a massive advantage.
Yeah, that's true.
So you have to find winning. Yeah. You have to find 9 other people that are willing to accept that you are not playing with the highest chance of winning. And that is actually more difficult than it might seem, because even when I do my challenges, when I'm like, I want to do 10 core NG, there were times when I waited 2 hours to try to get 10 core NGs in a group together.
It's a lot of core NGs.
Right?
Yeah. I want to just like make it, sorry, I just wanted to interrupt because there's like some people saying, I'm not saying that you shouldn't strive for optimal team comps. I'm saying that it's okay if like there's been times where like I have a strike mission group with like my own guildies and stuff, and we're just missing one alacrity. And then most of us are in agreement, all right, you know what, whatever, we don't need alacrity. Let's just get a DPS in here and then let's go. Right? Like I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't do optimized team comps. Yeah, I think that's something you should strive for. But not meeting that bar is not as detrimental as I think a lot of people are making it out to be. That's not towards you. That's towards the people who are saying that in chat. I'm not trying to
and you're
like,
totally right. I support you in that. I mean, I've done tons of raids and killed Suan without alacrity and quickness and stuff. It doesn't. It helps a lot. Like it is a massive advantage to have the boon. But you don't necessarily need it. If you're down one, I mean, a good example is like everyone says, "Oh, you need banners, or whatever." People used to say that all the time. I think that's shifting a bit now. But I used to run without banners all the time because it was just annoying to like, I had 10 people that could play DPS. Nobody could play banners. I just was like, never mind, right? Just put another DPS. We're going to kill all the bosses anyway, right? So you don't have to play the perfect comp to succeed. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that wasn't meant
for sorry. I want to bring Lara in. Lara's been waiting to enter the debate.
So, like, I think the thing is, though, is not that hard to make a good group comp or like a comp that's like good enough. I think it's just the psychological thing where people are like, I don't really know how to do that. I'll have someone else do it. I'm just going to join. I think that's more the issue than it actually being difficult. I don't think it is that difficult, but just the idea like, I have to do this. Maybe people will lie about what they're playing. Maybe I'll have to kick someone if they're not playing the right role or something. I think that just stresses people out. And then there's the idea that where it's like people sort of like assume that the commander knows the mechanics and can like explain everything.
Yeah.
I think those things combined make it so that people don't make their own groups, even though they perfectly could do it. But yeah, I don't think making a group is that hard. I just think it's this thing where people are like, oh, I'll stay away from that. I'll let someone else do it.
I might change the language on that slightly. I think everyone is capable of making groups.
Yes.
But I think there are challenges and difficulties that make it hard for people, especially if you're a little bit shy, right? If you are the commander, everyone's looking at you. You are the leader of the group. And so no matter how you feel about that, the reality is that that's sort of what people expect, is that you will know maybe a little bit more than other people. If you disclose right away and you're like, hey, I'm putting up the tag, trying to learn to be a commander, it's a little bit different, but people are very uncomfortable with putting themselves out there like that and making themselves vulnerable because they open themselves up to a lot of criticism, and that can be challenging. I know when I first started leading raids, Look, I'm going to expose myself here. I knew hardly anything. I didn't know how to make a good comp. I didn't know how to kill. I didn't know like half the roles. I didn't know how to play other classes. I didn't know what unique buffs things had. I didn't know how the food worked. I barely knew anything, and I got obliterated. Like, I got obliterated a few times, right? It was the minority. I think generally people were pretty nice because I tried to be honest, like, hey, I don't know this or whatever. But sometimes I'd say that, and like 3 people would leave. Because they were just like, nope, not doing that, right? Yeah. Commander's a noob, not doing it, right?
Everyone leaves.
Yeah, so it's nerve-wracking, right? And sometimes I was like a little distressed by that. I was like, holy crap, like people keep leaving. I didn't know this thing, and everyone's mad, and like I screwed it up for the team, right? It takes a little bit of thick skin sometimes to be like, okay, I'm gonna make some mistakes. I gotta be comfortable with that. I just gotta be honest about it and have people help me and take the criticism and try to use that to fuel my fire and become better at this. And not everyone's comfortable with that. And so it's so much more than just, oh yeah, you just chuck the people with the certain boons and then everything will work out. There's like a lot of, like Lara said, it's a lot of psychology here. You're a leader. You're kind of put in the spotlight. And then you add all that level of complexity by having to have a lot of knowledge, both mechanically and about people's classes. So there's just a lot of layers.
Possible derailment here. I think, again, this is just a symptom of a bigger problem, right? Is that the problem is that the pool of people in the raiding and strike mission and in general endgame PvE or just endgame in general is very small. So what that means is that there's not enough people to fill each niche of like what people want, like whether it's a new player run, whether it's a troll run, whether it's a meme run, whether it's like an optimized run where you want to just like clear the content and then move on with your day. I think at the core of it, everyone is entitled to how they want to play the group, right? It's like you don't have to stick with the commander that doesn't really know what they're doing if you only have 30 minutes to play every day, right? So I think we're talking about this as if the problem is like with the psychological consequences of leading, but I think it's just a symptom of a bigger problem in that there's not enough people to fill the groups. And I think if there were more people, if it was more normalized to like create your tag, I think a lot of the psychological effects would go away because suddenly you're not alone. There's a significantly less risk that you're going to get like called out because only like-minded people will join the group of people that like, they're thinking similarly to. It's like, imagine if, let's just say like hypothetically, there's like 1,000 raiders currently in line that wants to join a raid, right? It would be a lot easier to fill a group of 10 people that don't really know what they're doing than it is to fill with like, let's say 50 people that just want to like, that are trying to raid. So it's like, yeah. I think like I said, I'm not talking about the squad comp. Like I said, I think these are very legitimate problems that we're talking about. But like I said, I think it's just a symptom of a bigger problem. If there were more people in the game that were playing roles like alacrity, quickness, DPS, healers, whatever it is, it would be a lot easier to create a group with because now you have a surplus of people that need these groups. And then if there's a surplus of people, they leave, then you're going to have more people joining without any problem. So it's like, yeah.
I think it comes down to communication. In fact, I agree that there aren't enough people and there aren't enough confident people as well. But, maybe I'm crazy here, but I just view this as a huge issue in the game, right? That, you know, like, never mind raids and strike missions. Yeah, most people don't know how boons work. That is true, right? That's definitely true. We need to get people on board with this to understand how powerful these effects are. And we need to get people to communicate as well, because I don't think it has to be all on the commander, right? If someone joins the group and they say, hello, I am Alacrity, right? Well, okay, hey, this person's Alacrity, right? Or if the commander asks, hello, everyone, who can play Quickness? I feel like people in general can kind of answer that question mostly, right? And I think this is one thing that we should definitely try to advocate for, is players really knowing their build, right? Knowing their profession. I think that players are very locked into one specific setup and they never change it ever, and they wouldn't know how to. You know, Guardians won't know to swap the stability. You know, how many times have you been in a pug run on like a Samurog fight and the Firebrand just randomly doesn't have stability, right? Or on Sloth when like people just don't take stability or Condi Cleanse, just because they just don't even know. They don't even think. It's not even that they don't know. They don't think about it, right? Like players need to think about this, right? We need to get people in the mindset of going like, ooh, I know what my class can do, right? Because most people do not, right? And that is actually a fact as well. You know, if everyone knows, if every Guardian main knows that, oh, I can give quickness if I play Firebrand, or or Necromancers go, oh, I know I can give quickness by playing Harbinger, or Engineers say, oh, I can give Alacrity on Mechanist, right? And so on like this. I think with how many options there are in the game, it will just work out if you throw people into a group. That's kind of what ArenaNet is going for right now with the way they're balancing the game. And I think it already is like that a little bit. You know, like if you just take 10 random people, usually you can make something that vaguely makes sense out of the 10 players that you get. You know, you might have to sort it out and go like, oh yeah. And I agree, it is more complicated than other games. It's not a Holy Trinity setup, but you know, with a bit of effort and a bit of communication in an MMORPG, talking to your fellow human being, I think it usually works out, right? It usually tends to work out pretty well. I think so. And I think that, you know, what Sneb said in Twitch chat is really, really true. We need to break the perception, right? Because I am 100% confident that the player base is capable of this, even though that people are anxious. And I respect that. I know that players are anxious and nervous, and it is intimidating to make a group, right? You know, like when I was making groups for Wing 1, you know, back when Wing 1 came, I was like, oh shit, let's go, let's fucking go, right? And I enjoy that. I do like it. I like the pressure. So I'm obviously coming from a biased perspective there. But I think we can get people on board with this. We absolutely can, right? We can get the players to this standard of knowledge, because it's you know, it can happen very, very quickly, and you just need like a few people teaching other players, and it will be really, really good. I've got to bring this up again, guys. Weekly mention of Dragon's End here. Classic run stuff. I think you remember this actually. Dragon's End. Someone, you know, the squad was saying it was impossible. Could not be done in a pug group. No subgroups. Isa, Operative Isa, infiltrates the map, organizes the subgroup. They kill fully unnerfed Dragon's End. They would have failed hard without that.
If I recall correctly.
Yes, a minute and a half to spare. And that was done unnerfed Dragon's End. And it was because Secret Agent Isa took his mouse cursor and moved players into groups of 5.
You're leaving out one important thing that happened there. That I think that the players in that map may remember or may have learned from. Isa went in and whispered the commander and asked if it was okay if he helped.
This is true.
And explained what he was going to do and why he was going to do it. And the commander said, oh, you think this is going to help us win? Let's do it. Teach me. Went in, put the subgroups, kind of explained what was going on in the squad chat. Huge advantage. Suddenly they were way more apt for success, and they won. And I think that's such a huge piece that a lot of people miss. It's just that like little bit of mentorship that now that commander is going to go and they're going to do that everywhere, right?
I agree. Actually,
Hopefully.
this is going to be one of the points I bring up, is that commanding doesn't have to be a solo operation, right? Like right now, the perception is that it is, and it's understandable that it is, and it's understandable why people are scared of doing so. But again, it's like, it's the whole JFK again, like what can we do to kind of help people with that, right? Is do what Isa did, is go out there taking the initiative to help new commanders and telling them either like the resources or like maybe like different tips and stuff that they can do so that they can then retain that knowledge for the future, right? It's like I remember when Wonders was first leading Dragon's End metas for like what's it called, for Hardstuck and everything. He went around to everyone and asked for help and everything, right? And even the people that he didn't ask directly for help for, people were starting to chime in and like the squad chat being like, hey, like, maybe you could also do this. Guys, don't forget to do this. And people were like helping the commander lead, right? So it's like if you're like not in a position where you want to have a target on your back because you don't want the tag on your head or anything like that, maybe like poking the commander, like Isaac did, like whispering them, be like, hey, you might want to like be careful with like this thing, or you might want to like double check this subgroup or something like that, or I think this person is like super lost and they don't know what to do, can you like give them a poke, just kind of like don't backseat. I want to like make that super clear. I don't think backseating is like correct, but like if you have good intentions, I think most people can pick up that you have good intentions. If you have bad intentions, I think most people have enough social like awareness to understand that you're doing it to like be mean or to be backseating or to be like, I don't know, like I don't know, just that sort of thing. So it's like I think if we genuinely just like approached this in like, I don't know, I guess just in a more collaborative way, right? It's like I think it would do a lot to help relieve that like pressure of feeling like you need to be the perfect commander. So
I think in the end it's about communication, isn't it?
Mhm.
Like we were talking about this before, where people are a bit scared to like admit they don't know something. Like, where you asked an LFG for people that knew the mechanics and then they didn't, and they were a bit, they just joined anyway because they didn't join any group. I think a lot of people are kind of scared to admit that they don't know something. And that's why they assume like, oh, I have to be perfect when I do this. Well, you can totally like make a race squad and be like, hey, y'all, I don't know about this thing. Does someone know? Or you can totally command things even if you don't know something perfectly. Because people have this perception that if you ask something, especially if you're the commander, that you're gonna get yelled at. And yeah,
I think the
that's
problem is
probably
that
what
they
has
do
to
get yelled
change.
at. I
Yeah,
think
it does
that's the
happen.
problem, is that it's not just like this unmanifested fear, is that when you
Yeah.
do say that, you do get yelled at. People do
Yeah.
leave your group. People do in general like just punish you for being honest. And I think again, that's just something we as a community to make sure that we're helping with the shift. It's like, for every one person that leaves the squad, maybe like help them out a bit more. Go out of your way to be nice to that person that's like taking time to like organize this stuff. I think that's something that we can really do. Just like not even just us like on the TeaTime, but people who might be listening, just like lurking in here. It's like, maybe the next time like your commander messes up, give them the benefit of the doubt. Just like whisper
I
them and be
agree.
like, hey, don't worry. I'll stick around. You're doing fine. Like just I think a little bit of kindness really goes a really long way. So.
And
Everyone has to
don't be
start
a
somewhere.
bystander either.
Mhm,
If
Yeah.
you
exactly.
if you witness somebody like getting
Flaming.
destroyed,
Flame them.
yeah, don't because I've had this, right? I was in a QTP once where this commander was just like bullying this person. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, why? They were like trying to force this person to play pylon when we had 4 scourges and the commander was one of them. I was like, why don't you just play pylon? And it's because they didn't know how to do pylon.
Oh,
But they were like really picking on this person, and then they kicked them. And I was like, yo, that's not okay, man. Like you can't do that. That's that's really, you just made that person have a terrible experience. And my whole point is that we should just make sure that if we see those kind of things happening, that we do our best to stop them, or we like whisper the person, we're like, hey, I don't know what happened. I just want to let you know, I thought you're doing fine. You might have made a mistake here or there, but we all make mistakes because everyone does. Everyone in this Discord has wiped on a boss or not known something and had to ask. It's totally okay. Everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's just like someone brought up, like, some commanders do encourage this culture, right? This sort of like gatekeeping, toxic, elitist culture. And I don't think there's really much we can do to maybe change those guys' minds. But I would argue that there's probably a lot of people that they're not being malicious, nor are they being like a Superman, right? A lot of them are just average players that are just trying to get stuff done. And I think those people, or those players that, like, they're just trying to get their stuff done, are usually the overlooked players. Like, people kind of like just forget about them because they're average and kind of like forgettable, right?
I mean,
so it's like, I think
people always remember negative experiences, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
The classic example, if you meet 100 people and you shake hands with 99 and you get punched by the last one, which one are you going to remember that, in a week's time, right? Like, it's and this is why it's such an uphill battle to remove any kind of stigma from stuff like raids or PvP. Realistically, if you actually play most PvP games, they're actually not toxic at all. In fact, no one will even say a single word, right? And I would, by the way, for people who disagree with me, I would really encourage you to do a science experiment here. Record how many games there was a toxic incident, and then record how many there weren't. And I guarantee you, the number, or the kind of the percentage, right, of toxic games will be far lower than you think, right? And do the same with raids. Like, it will be far lower. The amount of actual toxic experiences you have are really uncommon, actually. In Guild Wars 2, like in every game mode, right? It does not happen very often. To be honest, it's a very, very small minority of players who engage this way, in this regard. So yeah, I completely agree with you though, Emmy. Like, you'd realize there are always going to be bad actors, but you just have to construct a bigger set of good actors, right? And clone ourselves, right? Away we go. Yeah. But yeah, except for now, including in WoW, by the way, again, do the science. Trust me. Don't look. I'm going to meme here, but listen, don't listen to your feelings. Go collect some facts on this. I guarantee you it will be lower than you think in any game. Even a putrid video game like League of Legends, right? It won't be as bad as you think. It's because your brain is primed to remember bad experiences. That's just the way it's going to be, right? It's I don't know. I don't know what to say. That's just the way we are. That is the way we are as humans, okay? We're naturally drawn to the horrible things that happen to us, I guess. I don't know.
To be fair, I'd also say the opposite. Is like, people tend to remember the really positive experiences too. I think problem is that it's really difficult to facilitate those really positive experiences, right? Because being positive is like, it takes a lot of effort. Like, to have like a good experience, like, I'm gonna quote what you said again, where you like pulled a bunch of people that had never done the mechanics before or anything like that, and they may have been like, they lied on the LFG and thought that they said that. I imagine a lot of them would probably look at that as a very positive experience. Like, 2 years down the line, they could have realized, like, that they messed up, they shouldn't have lied, but then they got a lot out of it because of a really positive commander. I'm willing to bet those people probably will remember that, right? But the problem is, I feel like it's just really hard to be positive in the face of a lot of negativity. And that's where it's like, you just have to be the bigger person. When shit goes wrong, you can't be toxic back, right? Otherwise, that just facilitates this sort of like negative attitude.
Yeah.
So.
You know who's really good at being positive?
Who?
Like, top tier?
Who?
Lara.
Yeah,
true.
I am actually, whenever I'm feeling like a bit down, I go to Lara's stream because I know that no matter what, it's going to have exactly the same vibe. And it's going to be like at a 9.9 on the positivity scale, right?
Actually,
I actually would love
PvP.
to know how you
PvP.
How you always stay so positive, right? Because you just you have a very good way of talking to people in your chat and talking to people in your squads and encouraging people, and even when you're wiping a million times, like 47 deaths on the CM, you probably still have the same demeanor, right? So how would you tell somebody else or like, what would you advise somebody to do if they wanted to keep a positive attitude and have that mindset?
I don't really know. I'm not sure if there's like a trick to it. I once watched like a streamer play PvP and they were really tilted and like upset, and I just thought it was really hard to watch. So it's like, I don't know. I think that's also just in general, if you're wiping, I think it helps so much just like rise we can do it in the chat and stuff like that.
In all caps,
I think
right?
genuinely,
Yeah.
it makes such a difference. I think sometimes people get upset. They get like, "No, we can't do it," but I'm just like, "No, we can do it." No, but I do think that just sticking to the positive tends to be a little bit underrated. Like, there's a lot of people that are kind of, that enjoy being kind of like edgelords and hating on things, and I kind of enjoy being sort of the opposite of that and just trying to stay positive. I do get tilted though. That totally happens, but then I try to like force myself. To get back to what you were talking about though, actually I got into PvP last week. I actually kind of got motivated by you, Teapot. We were having like a conversation, I think 3 weeks ago, and it was like, I am bad at PvP, and Teapot was like, no, you can totally learn how to do PvP, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try. And I've played like a bunch in the past 2 weeks, and I've met one person who was like actually being toxic. I always imagined it would be much worse. I always imagined that like if you go into PvP, it would be like a constant rage fest and everyone being toxic and stuff. It was a lot better than I expected. I definitely think that these negative experiences tend to stick out. If you're in a race book and one person yells at you, technically that's only 1 out of 9 people that's yelling at you. Like those 8 people could be wonderful, but you're gonna remember the person that yells at you. I think it's important that we as a community, like you said, sort of like step up when that happens and sort of be like, yo, it's not okay to yell like that. Because I think there's this sort of bystander effect, right? Like you're in a raid book, you see commander being toxic and yelling at someone, and then you just kind of go, "Ah, I'm not going to deal with that." I think that's something we can do, because I don't think most people are toxic. I think most people in like raids and PvP are actually nice, but we sort of let the toxic people get away with it too often, I think. But thank you for all the nice things you said, Sneb. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I only say because it's true.
It is
Seriously,
true.
It's very true.
Yeah. I think there's something that you actually said, during while you were playing PvP, by the way, Lara. I was lurking. I'm there. I'm watching. I'm observing. I see everything.
Everywhere.
And yeah, one thing you said I think really kind of rang true, and I'm going to use this as a way to take us all the way back to the start. Perfect segue here. You said that in PvP you have to use your abilities tactically, whereas in PvE you just spam everything. True! And here's the thing, actually. That statement is descriptive, but it's actually also incorrect at the same time. You should use your abilities tactically, but you don't a lot of the time. Yeah, when you play PvE, most people do button mash. They don't think about their ability usage whatsoever. This is why I think PvP and learning PvP is a really good thing for every player to do in the game, because if you just button mash, you will get punished. You will lose every single time. It will not work. It does not work there. At all. Whereas in PvE, it actually will. And this really hampers people. It's kind of what we were talking about at the beginning. See, I'm bringing it back. It's about basic mechanics, right? Like when you go through, you can beat every single raid in the entire game without knowing what your build actually does, right? That is actually true, by the way. I know that sounds really unusual, but it is 100% true. I was advising a group on Doom. They were progressing Doom CM, and they said, we keep dying. We keep taking so much pressure, right? And they said, this is the only CM we haven't done. We've beaten every other CM. I was like, oh, well, okay, let me have a look at the logs, right? And they had 3 firebrands, and I looked through their ability usage, and they didn't use Tome of Resolve or Tome of Courage even once in the entire fight. So they have these broken, overpowered, and also I checked the Scourges, and they used the barrier, the F3, like 3 times in a 5-minute encounter, right? It's unbelievable, right? They beat everything in the entire game, and they have no idea what like 2/3 of their abilities do. That is crazy. Like, this is the thing that causes players to have, in my opinion, this is the root cause of players having anxiety when building groups. They don't understand what their abilities do. They don't understand how any of it actually works. Like, players tend to know the absolute bare minimum required to play the game, and the second, and Guild Wars 2 is just designed this way. The moment you want to push it a little bit further, it just collapses, right? Like, immediately. Like, the second you have to step outside of that zone, you can't really do anything anymore, which is bad. We should teach people to, we should create the mentality of learning what all of your abilities do, of learning how all the mechanics of the game work. Learn that, and everything is easy peasy. PvE, PvP, world versus world, you're good to go. No problem. There it is.
You just learn ArenaNet, and then you can do all the content.
True. ArenaNet, ultimate training. Okay? Yes.
I mean, we mentioned it earlier. I don't know how much we got into it, but it is a really great encounter for learning mechanical skill. Like I mentioned it like at the very beginning, but like needing to pay attention to things outside of your own character is something that I think a lot of people don't really bother with, because there's not really any reason to do that, right? It's like a lot of the times the things that are going to directly affect you are right in front of you, right? Like if you see an orange AoE right in front of you, you think, oh, that's bad. I don't want to get hit by that, right? But what about those hallucinations that start off in the opposite corner of the arena and then are marching their way menacingly towards you, right? It's like if you don't have that ability to kind of look outside of your own gameplay, you won't notice it until it's right on top of you, and then you die, right? So it's like Anka CM, I know a lot of people sleep on it, but I feel like it's a really great like CM for people that are still learning the system. So
I completely agree.
Mm-hmm. Same.
We've come full circle.
I've died to those many times now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I think another thing I kind of want to point out is like nobody is born like the best Guild Wars 2 player in the world, right? Like nobody is born like, oh, I can do like calculus in my sleep. Like nobody does that, right? These are all skills that are developed over a long time, and then you can improve on. It's like it sounds super cheesy and overstated, and everyone always says it, but like even the best players in the game kind of like started off like, you know, they didn't really know what they were doing, right? But it's through practice and through like exercising that muscle that you get better at it. So I remember Lara mentioned it, like you died 47 times to the encounter. I imagine doing those 47 times you probably got a lot better, right? It's like it was just a skill that you were practicing. And I think that's something that I think maybe to the people who are like, you know, a bit uncomfortable with getting into like, I don't know, this kind of content, just I don't know, it's like you can do it. I don't think I think most people are of like, you know, average intelligence. Like there's no reason why you can't. Oh, okay. No offense. I don't want to sound like ableist or anything, but it's like, you know, I think you're a lot more capable than what you give yourself credit for. You know, like there's
people underestimate themselves.
Yeah. I think that, okay. That's what I was trying to say. It's like people tend to underestimate themselves, and it's like I think, you know, like with the right people, with the right community, like you can do it. I didn't mean it that way.
No, I agree with you.
It's been too long. The tongues are slipping. I didn't mean it that way. I just meant it's like, you know, I don't know, given the correct resources in playing with the community that's not going to like completely shit on you for messing up. It's like, you know, I don't know. Yeah.
Please skills ping carry IQ over before entering.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and do that. Yeah. Ping you. Please take this natural aptitude test before joining.
Yeah.
They do that for like job applications and shit. But that always surprises me.
They do?
Yeah. I once had to do like an IQ test. I was like, yo, I have a master's degree. But they were like, no, you have to do this random IQ test. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Painful.
Yeah, it does happen.
We should do this in raid pokes from now on.
Yeah. Oh, that's a clip right there. It's a new version of Kill Proof.
No, it's a joke.
Yeah.
Please send IQ test results
how many,
to Emmy.
See, like, this is all part of my plan. How many TeaTimes has Lara been on? 3 at this point. She's already corrupted. Has already become a degenerate, toxic gatekeeper raider now.
Oh my god.
Unlucky. Yeah. It's too late now. You can't back out as well. Yeah, there's no way you can get out of this. You're completely screwed.
You know how we can get people to do the strike sim? We should just gatekeep all of the LFG behind a new title. So you have to do the strike sim to join anything. Okay?
Wow.
How to encourage
This is a
players
joke. This is
to
a
do the
joke.
strike. You want to do Shadow Behemoth? Show title.
Oh my god.
Dragon's
Please no.
End, gazed into the void run only.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
All raid achievements and all strike achievements run. You know what though? One more
Plus
topic.
IQ test.
You know what? Actually, one more topic before we wrap up here, and it will be a little smidgen, little mini one here. I am now firmly of the position that I think there needs to be more things like gazed into the void in the game. I think every boss should have something like this because it is essentially kill proof. And I think ArenaNet need to fix kill proof. And you know how you fix kill proof? By adding a non-shit version of their own kill proof into the game. The problem with kill proof is that it's entirely player enforced, which one, doesn't even mean you're any good, and two, it means that the players make stupid numbers up. If ArenaNet actually make their own version of kill proof, they can control what that looks like. So I would actually be in favor of removing all kill proof from the game, essentially, and making stuff like pinging the trophies and LI totally redundant. I think there should be like a sync for LI so you can spend them, it becomes irrelevant. There should be like, they should change the way the trophies are so they instantly absorb so you can't ping them or something like that. And they should add their own version of this everywhere because I think kill proof sucks and the only way it's ever going to go away is if ArenaNet add their own version of it. And I like stuff like Gazed into the Void and even a title for just beating it for the first time. That would also be really good on just the regular CM. Or a way to ping achievements in a way that they can't be faked. If they don't do that, I actually think it's only going to get worse from here on out, and that makes me sad. It's going to get more gatekept, and we need to reduce the gatekeeping by adding a little gate, right, that you can get through easily, right? Little gate instead of player constructed massive wall.
We need to use the catapults of positivity to destroy the gatekeeping.
Yes.
You know what I've noticed? I do fractal CM sometimes on LSG, and very often I do it in NA because my sleep schedule is terrible. So I go over to NA because people in NA are doing fractal CMs at like 4 a.m. my time. It is a lot easier to get into fractal CM groups on NA because on NA people just ask for like the title. They're like Dancing with Demons, and that's like way easier to get. On EU, everyone's like, you need 15,000 unstable fractal essence, which is like tons and tons of clears. I actually think that NA is like easier to get into fractal CMs than EU just because they ask for the title instead. I think that is a better form of gatekeeping than locking it behind like 15,000 UFE.
Yes.
Or 25,000.
Big true. Right? And, you know, I really do want to emphasize this because I know a lot of people say, oh, you're saying ArenaNet should add gatekeeping to the game? Well, actually, yes. Because if they don't, look what happens when there is no form of gatekeeping in the game, right? And I want to get Sneb's take on this as well because, you know, Sneb's all over this stuff.
I've got a big take on this.
Yeah, like there needs to be some way to distinguish player skill in the game. Otherwise, the players will do it for themselves, and I promise you it will always be worse than anything that was actually official here. The players doing it gets ridiculous. Like, there are some groups that are asking you to have killed the boss like 50 times before you can join, or like 100 times, like killing it every week for a year before you can actually join. Ridiculous. Okay? Absolutely ridiculous. I think there's loads of things they could do. You know what they should do? Sneb's are a fan of RuneScape. RuneScape has kill count. Boom. Add kill count into the game so you can farm kill count even if it's off weekly reset. Because right now you can only get X kill proof per week, right? Because of the reset. Boom. Farm that shit 10 times. You've got 10 Veil Guardian kills. You're in. Easy.
Absolutely.
Cool. Actually, yeah, like some sort of like farmable like thing that isn't directly tied to like rewards and stuff would actually like I early in the TeaTime I kind of kept my mouth shut because I was a bit scared of if the community would lash out at me. But like, what's wrong with making endgame content farmable, right? It's like we have stuff like Drizzlewood, we have stuff like like the different meta events that people do every single day. What's wrong with like fractal 42 cm in comparison, right? It's like, is that not necessarily a good thing? Because the more people that are farming it means that there's more people in the community. And if there's more people in the community, there's more opportunities for new players to get into the community. So then isn't that a net positive? I don't know. It's just something I was thinking of, because it's like you're saying, like, you can farm VG 10 times to get your kill count up and everything.
Yeah, it would be a
Isn't
big
that-
positive.
Isn't that pretty good thing? Like, that
It
just
is.
means, like, you do it 10 times, you might have one new player every time you do that.
Yeah.
That's 10 new players that now know the encounter. So
No, that's definitely another big positive upside. It would, players would want to continuously beat the encounter so that they could increment the number. Because I mean, who doesn't like seeing a number go up? I mean, that's good, right? Then you know what you can do? You can compete on Guild Wars 2 efficiency for the highest number of kills.
It's gonna be like 20 people like really into that.
just like doing Veil Guardian all day, right? So people are gonna pick a boss and just grind it. Like oh yep, Veil Guardian, pugging it, just constantly. Infinite Veil Guardian pugs.
Yep.
I like it. What do you think, Sneb?
There's something you wanted me to activate about. What was it?
Yeah. I want you to activate about gatekeeping.
Yeah, I think we so gatekeeping, obviously very negative connotation. So I don't know that that's even the word we want to use, but we want there to be sort of these it's on the tip of my tongue. There's this word for it. These echelons, no, these tiers, these like points that you get to where it's like, okay, now you can move on to the next thing. I mean, Fractals kind of has this built in a sense, right? But it would be nice if it would be nice if players knew that they were prepared to go into certain content, because I think right now what happens is players are often blindsided. They're like, oh, well, you know what? Beat the story, did all this other stuff. I'm gonna just jump into a raid.
Time to raid.
Yeah, and then this is what happens. They go in and they say, they just join and they don't really say anything. And you go, "Are you coming?" And they go, "How do I get there?" And you're like, "Uh-oh," right? And then a lot of times they'll get kicked, which is unfortunate. But they're just not really prepared because they don't really know what gear they need or any of that stuff. And in some cases, like with this, oh yeah, this is a huge qualm for me with the IBS strikes. With the IBS strikes, having the special action key is a massive advantage. Almost, well, it's not like 100% necessary, but it's a pretty big advantage, right? To break the bars. But people can go into the strikes without having the masteries. So it's kind of odd. It feels like there's moments in time where the game should probably stop you and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's hold on a second here. Let's get you ready to go into this content. Like, hey, just so you know, before, like, even if it was just a warning, it says, hey, you're about to enter content that requires more organized, whatever, right? Do you wish to proceed? And then you could like toggle that off if you wanted to. We don't really have anything like this, very open. And so a lot of times I think people are blindsided. And so this is why gatekeeping occurs. It's because the game doesn't really ever stop you and check you to say, hey, are you ready for this? Not in like a, you can't do this kind of way, but as more of an assist, right? It's meant to help you. It's meant for you to be like, okay, I need to prepare in this way before continuing. I wish we had more things like that in the game, because I think in general, then the player base would be more prepared when they go into stuff that is just the next level up.
I was playing Final Fantasy recently. I've been playing that on the side a bit, and at some point I saw this trial spit like a strike, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. And then I went to that queue for it, and the game said to me, your gear is not good enough. You can't do this. And I was like, what? This would never happen in Guild Wars 2. It just straight up went like, you can't do it.
Are you
need
sure?
to get better gear first. And I was like, what? I don't know. I kind of agree. It would be nice if it was like a pop-up or something. Like, first time you go into a race where it's like, yo, kind of want to have exotic gear at this point. Something like that, you know, where it's not necessarily like keeping you out, but just like, hey, this is recommended, right? You can have a bad time if you're still running green gear at this point. Something like that. I agree with that.
That could be interesting. It would like pop up.
Yeah.
is like not even just in terms of like gearing, but also like maybe attitude, right? It's like, you know, when you join a raid with a community, try to like, you know, comply within the terms of service, don't be mean. And like I like know, I'm going to use League as an example because it's the only game that I know that does this. Is every time a new ranked season comes around, every player, regardless of how long you've been playing, gets a pop-up when you first log in being like, make sure you are like not being toxic, make sure that you're not like, you know, being homophobic or transphobic or whatever it is. And you have to actually click a button at the bottom that says, I understand. So it's kind of, in a way, it's almost like, yeah, it's even if like, you know, a lot of people probably won't even read it. They'll just be like, oh, whatever, it's another pop-up. They just like click away. I think having something like that just in your face, like, you know, be a good person, be a nice person. Here's some resources for you to look at. And then player can just say, okay, I understand. And then not have it pop up again. I think that would help a lot. So, yeah.
I think WoW is actually adding that in. They've got like a contract now that you have to like
social contract. That's true. Yeah. They do.
Yeah. I think something like that would just help a lot because it sets a in-game standard, right? So.
I hate this idea. I despise. I'm
really?
going to press this. No, not that. The idea that I'm about to say. No, not that. That idea is fine. I think that's fine. I think in general, people aren't going to read it. Maybe it helps. Maybe it doesn't. You know what I hate though? Okay. It's something that I've been thinking about. It's been brewing. This idea's been brewing. So we're talking about warning people, poking people, telling people they've got gear. What if they actually set up a full content path through the game? So in other words, you have to do fractals before you do strikes. And you have to do strike missions before you do raids. I think that's so trash, but I actually think it might be good, right? Because
it would help, but I don't think they're ever going to do it. I think
it's Beatles, right?
Yeah.
It's not a good idea.
It's like it goes against the core philosophy of Guild Wars 2, right? It's just like the idea of like open world, you can do whatever. It's like it would be great to get people into the community, but I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Wait, let me take that back. It's not a good idea if it's like you must do this before. It depends how much of that, right? You got to be very careful here because to me, like strikes, dragon response missions, fractals, dungeons, these are all kind of similar, right? Maybe there's some that are slightly more difficult or less difficult or whatever, but like they're all very similar. And so I feel like it'd be more effective to give somebody like a checklist and guide them in the direction, but not force them to do the fractal before they do the strike.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like instead of being like, you actually can't walk through this portal, you give them some list that comes up. It's like, hey, on your adventuring list, what if you were to go try fractals? And then once you've tried fractals, it's like, hey, now that you've tried fractals, why don't you go try strikes? So it gives people the option to just jump around because maybe they've got a friend who's really into raids or strikes or whatever. And then they don't have to like, you know, walk them through like 10 different forms of content, right? But instead they just kind of guide them around, right?
Yeah.
There are some places that you should force people to do certain things though, because then it will teach them. So I just where those moments are, I'm not sure exactly. It's just so difficult because Guild Wars 2 does instance content in so many ways. Because I mean, I would be open, for example, if like let's say in raids you couldn't do Wing 2 until you'd done Wing 1.
I don't think that's actually, I think, a really good idea is that it can still be horizontal wise, right? You have like a lot of different things you can do: fractals, raids, strike missions, world versus world, PvP, open world metas. But within each of those sections, I think having a little bit of vertical progression would be very beneficial. I wouldn't go so far as to say like the individual raid wings, because I usually personally I train Wing 7 because I find Adina and Sabir to be really good training bosses.
True.
But like, for example, imagine if you couldn't do Sabir CM until you've done Sabir, right?
Yeah,
So something like that.
Ooh.
Or like you can't do Anka CM until you've done normal Anka. Or maybe like, I don't know, just stuff like that. I think having some sort of natural progression would help a lot. I think it doesn't have to be so egregious to where it's like you're not allowed to step foot in raids unless you've done all of the strike missions in both Ice Through Saga and End of Dragons. I don't think that's necessary. I think just having like a structure for players to follow, players will naturally start following the structure, right? Especially in such an unstructured game like Guild Wars 2, where it's literally open world, right? It's like I think even having the smallest bit of structure would have a very big impact on just like what people kind of naturally gravitate towards. So
Also, we actually kind of talked about this a couple episodes ago about how people get overwhelmed once they hit level 80 and then they don't know what to do.
mhm.
I actually think it could be good to sort of have a progression path, like, hey, maybe optional, but like try this, try this, try this. Yeah, that honestly seems pretty good to me. Also, it might be a bit strange for people to like judge difficulty. We've got like a bunch of rate wings now, and some of those rate wings are actually very easy, and some of them are actually quite hard. Maybe just genuinely having like something like this is an easy rate, this is a hard rate. Maybe something like that could already help a little bit. But it's easy to Google though, isn't it? Maybe it wouldn't actually help that much.
I think that is a good point, about the difficulty. Players have got no idea what they're getting themselves in for, right? That's for sure. Sometimes, like, oh, you might go, oh, wow, Mercer Overseer, that wasn't too bad. And then they go like, oh, yeah, let's go try Wing 5, right? Like, Wing 5, that's after Wing 4. Let's go 4 to 5. That's going to be a great time. And they try just Desmina, and they, oh, well, what about Doom? Let's try that one. Just smash into it and get completely deleted. Or how about Kadim? That sounds like a great time. Sounds like a cool boss. And they get Hardstuck immediately. So, yeah, I think, yeah. How do other games handle this? Do you have like difficulty indicators on other... I guess you have difficulty settings, right? And typically the bosses get harder as you go through a raid, I think, in other games. So I guess that's the way it's implicitly handled there. But because old content is around forever in Guild Wars 2, that's really hard to do, right? You'd have to actually mark it with like a difficulty rating.
I think we don't even have to look towards other games because Fractals does that, right? It's like tier 1 Fractals only has a fraction of the mechanics of a tier 4 Fractal. And tier 4 Fractals only have a fraction of the mechanics of the CM Fractals, right? So it's like, I think there already is like a very good example within the game itself that like content can be tiered in a way where when you complete the lower tiers, you're kind of equipped better to do the higher tiers.
I do actually think that strikes have already been making this a little bit better. If I go on strike LFG, I always see like so many groups that are like everyone welcome and stuff. I genuinely think it's gotten much easier to get into endgame just because strike LFG tends to be welcoming and like you can just hop in there and stuff. There's still a transition though, like going from strikes to CMs or to raids. That's still like this kind of spooky step, but I think they've made progress on this front, basically.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. I think the issue is between entities though, right? Because you're saying that fractals increase in difficulty. You're absolutely right. But the thing is, within that, even in fractals, there's like some weird spikes. Like for example, again, I'm undercover. Okay, secret, fully anonymous account, guys. No one knows it's me. Okay, full secret mode. I'm plugging fractals. Siren's Reef. Okay, like it's not good. Okay, it's bad. Tier 4 Siren's Reef, guys. You don't want to be there. It's not a good place to be. People do not like that fractal. People do not like Twilight Oasis. They struggle with that a lot. The big boss there, she does win quite a lot, more than you might expect, actually. In fact, I honestly feel like people have more trouble with Siren's Reef and Twilight Oasis than some of the CMs. Like, no joke, dude. Like, it's actually crazy. Like, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely like between encounters, it's more difficult, right? It's like I don't think anyone would say Harvest Temple is easier than Anka or Zinlight Junkyard, right? It's like I think CMs themselves, or it's not CMs, the strike missions themselves, the individual fractals themselves definitely have different like difficulty levels. But I'm pretty sure everyone could agree that tier 1 Siren's Reef is a lot easier than tier 4 Sirens.
This is true.
So
yeah. But yeah, I guess the idea that we're trying to express here is how do we indicate to players that raids are, say, harder than fractals, right? Or like, how do we say, okay, strike missions are... How do we say that easy mode or normal mode strike missions are easier than raids, but the challenge modes are actually harder than raids a lot of the time? See, it's getting more complicated now if you think about it, because like a lot of the strike missions, the Ice Root Saga ones and the Ender Dragon ones, yeah, they're a lot easier than raids. Whisper of Jawbanks kind of getting there a little bit, I suppose, a little bit. But then if you look at the challenge modes, I would argue that Aetherblade, Hideout, and Junlai Junkyard, that is actually harder than a lot of raid bosses. A lot of the time. And that's now, how do we express that? How does that get expressed to the player? Because the player's going like, whoa, this is a crazy difficulty spike. What's going on here? Because you think about going from normal to normal. Imagine if you're like, oh boy, I just beat my Trin, Aetherblade, Hideout, normal mode. Boom, let's go again and turn on the CM. Wow, that's going to be a bit of a step up, right? It's the same thing with Anka as well. You know, you do Anka normal mode, probably the easiest of the Ender Dragon Strike missions. Turn on the CM, everything one-shots you, and the boss has 50 million health.
Okay, hear me out. Again, I'm not saying this needs to be implemented to the game, but something you said there would be very radical. Imagine if strike missions were just normal raids and then the CMs became the raids. So think like normal VG is now a strike mission and then VG CM is a raid. Like, I'm not saying they have to do this. It's just, I feel like that kind of division would become very like natural, right? It's like strike missions are considered, the new strike missions would be considered a stepping stone to get into the new raids, which are the more difficult version of the original one. So I don't know. They don't have to do it. I'm just thinking like that could have been interesting. Like with the EOD strike missions, if the EOD strikes, the first ones were just the strike missions, and then they released Wing 8, which were all of like the strike mission CMs. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a really interesting idea. You know, I think that raids and strikes, it's unusual. Like, look, which one will take precedence?
We're kind of skirting the issue here. The issue is that
really?
There are so many different kinds of instanced content with all different names, unique things about them. For example, you need agony resistance in fractals. So you need ascended armor there. Dragon response missions, you want to get those buffs by doing multiple. So you want to do multiple in a row. Like there's all these like little things about these things, and they all have different currencies for rewards. It's very complicated to explain to somebody. And even within those modes, as you already suggested, there's different levels of difficulty. So the challenge is, how would you even organize this in a way that's coherent if you're trying to do difficulty scaling as it goes up? Like how would you even organize that or order it? I don't think it's very possible. So really the issue is that we have so many different kinds or so many different ways to express the same thing that we have a bit of a problem now.
Yeah, agreed. I do think that they definitely overcomplicated the system when they introduced strike missions, because before there was single player content, which is open worlds, right? And then there were 5-man content with like fractals and dungeons. And then there's 10-man content, which is raids, right? But now there's like multiples of each different type. There's different types of 5-man content, different types of 10-man content. And it's a lot of stuff. So.
It is. It's tough.
Well,
it's
they do like a reward track where they like do this fight, and then there's one for 5-man and one for 10-man. And
I would love this.
They should do like Ice Saga, and then like Ice Saga strikes, and then they should do UD strikes, and then they should do Wing 4 without demos.
Yeah.
What if you don't own the expansions though?
Imagine if they did like a battle pass, right? I don't know. I still think a battle pass would be really cool. I still think it gives me a reason to throw money at the game. I don't have any more reason to throw money at this game. So I still think that would be cool.
No, I think some kind of like in-game reward track or I mean, this was the thing that was shown on stream a while back, some kind of seasonal reward track thing. Yeah, I think it would be great. And that means they could custom lead you through content. Then the only thing that would get weird is it would have to adapt to what expansions you own. So for example, if you own Ender Dragons, well, it can't tell you to do Wing 4 first, right? Because you can't do Wing 4. In fact, it can't tell you to do raids, because if you don't own Heart of Thorns or Path of Fire, then you don't actually have access to any raids, let alone the easier raids. You only have access to strike missions. What if you don't own Icebrood Saga? How does it tell you to do that? So it gets a little weird, I guess.
It might be wishful thinking. Yeah. Also, I think it's very interesting because the last time I brought this up, like 2 weeks ago, and the last few times I brought up Battle Pass, everyone was like, they're like, yeah, let's have Battle Pass and everything. Versus this time, they're like, ew, Battle Pass bad, ew, WTF. Like, I just find it really interesting. I guess different people are watching at different times. So
yeah, I think It's so tough because I think it's a good idea to have different points where people stop or are sort of prevented from moving forward unless they do a task. But to do that with instance content is just too complicated. I
Yeah.
think at this point, like, I don't know how you do it because as suggested, all across different storylines and all across, like, you're going to spoil the story for people. I don't know. And people don't have expansions or one living world thing. Then you're preventing them from progression. I think it gets way too complicated.
Yeah,
But
that's possible. Even maybe kind of like to practice what I was preaching earlier. It's like if they repurpose the daily system, that effectively is already kind of like a battle pass, right? It's like the idea of like you have this checklist of things that you can do for bonus rewards. In effect, that's basically what it is. I do think the current daily system, especially with like the daily strike missions, I've been having a bit of trouble with that. Is trying to figure out which one I should be doing today or like that sort of thing is very confusing. I think that I don't know.
The achieve look. I'm just gonna kill TeaTime now because like if we get drawn into the achievement panel discussion, we're gonna be here for another 5 hours. Okay, and like that is another thing entirely, right? Like figuring out, oh, what should I be doing today, right? As I scroll through 20 lists of dailies that have built up over the years in my achievement panel. Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
Bring back monthly achievements.
Oh.
I never played during monthly achievements. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
So.
They were really scuffed though. What was it like? Someone was like dodge 200 times.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
it wasn't great, but it was fun.
They were unusual. They were very weird monthly achievements sometimes. But yeah, you could beat them really quickly as well if you knew how. You could, bit of bizarre lore. I never released this video, but I actually made a video on how to speedrun all of the dailies in the entire game. There you go. It's probably still around somewhere. It just never got uploaded. It was back when I didn't have a good microphone, so I sound like this the entire time. But
you have to remaster
it. Maybe I should. But it's the old dailies though, so it's not the new. It doesn't, it's got like daily evader and stuff like that. It tells you where to go to do daily evader.
Wow, I forgot about that actually.
Yeah.
To be a thing.
It's a good achievement. That was when, you get those big mystic coins, right, for completing the monthly, right? Yeah, monthly reviver. Yeah. Do you know where you go to do that, guys? You go to the blood fields, right? In I think it's Gendaran Fields, right? Or maybe it's Harathi. No, I think it's Gendaran Fields. And you just res all the NPCs there. Boom, easy. Still got it.
Why don't you do the evader one on like the Karka because they shot like a ton of projectiles? So
yes,
people should get like 5 at once.
I remember. Lara remembers. Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right. You do it on the Karka because you dodge their weird projectile attack in South Sun Cove. True. There you go. Some old school Guild Wars 2 info there. However, I think that's about. Do we have any final thoughts? We want to wrap things up here, and then we missed. And how's the list of bullet points looking at me? Have we got through all of them?
We didn't everything, but that's okay. Some of them I think were very like specific niche topics that we're gonna bring.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just out of interest, can I tell me one that we haven't covered?
Okay, it was a very radical idea. So I'm actually kind of scared because I feel like the longer the tea time goes on, the more weird ideas I have. So like just ignore me, honestly, just ignore me. But one of the ideas is rewards don't have to be in game. Like when it comes to like I don't know, strike missions or like that sort of thing. It's like we always think of like in-game rewards, whether it's like skins, titles, like that monetary gold, that sort of thing. But I know there's some games that have basically like marketing campaigns, right? It's like when you get the strike mission, you have to like or I don't know, this is just an idea, right? It's like imagine you complete the strike mission, submit a screenshot of your team standing next to the chest, and then you can like maybe get entered in for like a gem reward. I don't know, stuff like that might be interesting, but I don't know. Like I said, I feel like that was like a super specific niche topic that I only would have brought up in context, but you wanted one, so that was one of them.
Yeah, that'll do. It's I think just to give a quick take on that, I know exactly what you mean. I completely agree as well. I think that players do get a bit fixated on the pixels sometimes. The true reward is having the experience with your friends in a video gaming environment. Feels good, man. Wholesome. And I know I'm obviously semi-joking there, but I'm actually not. I think that should be a big focus. I think that's one of the reasons why players struggle with struggle with content in the game is because you'll say, okay, take your friends and challenge the strike mission. And they'll say, haven't got any friends. It's like, oh, that's kind of sad. You know, like, oh, I'm deflating now. Like, so I haven't got any friends, Teapot. I don't have anyone to play the game with. Oh, it's like, oh, man.
I actually made a video about how to make friends like 3 weeks ago. Just saying, that's a thing. If you want to make friends, watch the video.
Friend guide.
Yes, actually, not kidding.
Social interaction guide.
Basically, yes.
That's good. I think you're going to activate there, Sneb. What have you got?
I think perhaps one of the biggest takeaways from this entire TeaTime for me is just the ability to create culture shifts in the community and holding people accountable when they do things that are, detrimental to the way we want our community to be perceived and the direction that we want to go. When people are being really rude or bullying others or picking on whatever, we have the ability to do something, right? And if you're a commander and somebody's struggling, you have the ability to message them and be like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, maybe this group isn't, maybe you just walked into raids for the first time and we said that we were experienced, but like, here's some resources. Let me help you later. The way that you interact and communicate with people can have a very positive impact on the overall perception of the game and community. But it takes a lot of people with consistency doing this to achieve change. And so that's something that I feel like I'm going to focus on more is trying to be that positive impact.
That is actually wholesome. I like
Big
that.
takeaway.
That sounds good.
I like it. Yeah.
For myself, I'm gonna start writing copy pastas. That way, like, I don't know, maybe I can just have like a daily tip and just go and sit in the Lion's Arch airdrome and every 10 minutes put like a copy pasta tip in there. I don't know. That's what I'm gonna do.
You gotta number them.
If you are
daily
nice,
M tip number 3. Yeah. Make sure to press your buttons. Daily tip 7. Boons are very good. Daily
Copy
tip 9.
pasta for making friends. Lara already has that though.
That exactly, yeah. Dodge the smash on Dragon's End. Don't get eaten by Suwon. Do daily strike CMs. If you don't, you're bad.
That went from wholesome to like not wholesome, like really quickly. Too fast.
You know another. I just had another takeaway. I got annihilated at the beginning for not knowing about that reward system. Sort of justifiably.
Yeah,
so.
You did. You got destroyed, Sneb.
I mean, this is a good example of like what people experience when they try to command raid or something, right? You don't know the one thing, like annihilation. Yeah, a little bit hyperbolic. I just think that's kind of a funny thing because it happened and then literally we were talking about. Anyway, that's
do you know the best part about that is, Sneb? Because we let it go on for a while before correcting it. There are going to be dozens of people who stop the podcast and write a comment when they hear that.
Yeah.
They're going to pause it and then write a comment.
I'm going to have to make like a Corpa PR statement about not knowing the reward system. You know, in my defense, when you all taught me about that, chat, when you taught me about that, I immediately used all of my currency and traded it for gold. Thank you. You made a positive impact in my wallet today. Good.
Yeah.
In your defense, I did not know about that either.
I didn't know
I don't
either.
even think Teapot knew. Come on, Teapot. You didn't know about that. The chat helped you, right?
I mean, I went on the wiki. I mean, the chat pointed out I confirmed it on the wiki. I'm a moderator here, Sneb.
Okay, good. I'm glad though that everyone had to check the wiki. Oh, look, Doggo wants walk.
Yeah, but yeah, it's going to be good. I'm definitely going to enjoy that. But I think that is a good point though, because you actually got roasted really hard for something that's totally irrelevant as well. Like that's the best part about it. It's like such a like a useless piece of information almost. Well, I guess not totally useless, but not that useful because of, it's a very minor like reward thing here. And the chat eviscerated you. They ripped you to shreds. They ate you alive.
how dare you go on TeaTime not knowing every single detail about strike currencies?
Yeah. It's big. But anyway, I think that will about do it. It's time to wrap things up here. TeaTime is over. Be gone, everyone. Yeah. No outros. Terrible TeaTime. No one even deserves it. No, I'm kidding. All right. Okay. Thank you, guests, for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure, as usual. What a heated, intense discussion here. Even had a debate. I won the debate, by the way. 100%. I won. Sneb lost the debate.
Oh, that's not true at all. The
Sneb is 0 and 9. Like,
100.
okay,
My
debate win record 1 billion to 0 losses. Sneb's record 3 wins. Okay, no, actually, -7 wins, 10 billion losses. He lost to the chat and he lost to me at the same time in one go, right? That's how it is. But anyway, on that note, I will allow you to save faces, Sneb, by telling us about yourself.
Well, you know, I'm the ultimate debate champion. So I like streaming raids. That's kind of my thing, and endgame content, strikes and stuff. We do little challenges at Dragon's End. Yesterday, we did all Warrior Dragon's End on NA, and we were successful, and it was super good. We had like 5 minutes remaining. And that's the kind of content I do. I try to help people learn this endgame content. I put people into raid groups together. So if you're on NA and you're like, hey, I've always wanted to get into this. I want to put in the effort. I want to find some friends and get this done. You know, send me a message. So you can find me on Twitter and Twitch, and I've started making more YouTube content recently. So you can find me all there. Snebzor, there you go.
Nice. And here we go. Exclamation mark host in the chat. Still works. Nice. I don't know. No, I'm surprised. But it does work. Indeed, it does. Unlike the fake dude. That doesn't work, actually. But next up, it is Emmy. Back on the show. With the bullet points, with the corporate mentality, getting through the information, getting it done, making sure that we're only derailing by the standardized amount that we're allowed, that we're legally allowed each tea time. What's going on?
My name is Emmy. I'm a content creator for Givers too. I mostly do things like streaming. I don't really do too many YouTube videos. I'm a little bit too lazy for that. So my emphasis is mostly on endgame PvE. So things like training, fractals, strike missions, raids. And I've been doing a decent amount of open worlds recently just because End of Dragons and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in finding a like-minded group where I explain everything to you in these sorts of encounters, feel free to swing by. I also have a cat, but I don't want to bother him because he's sleeping at the moment in his cute little box. He has a lot of expensive cat trees, but he still chooses the box. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
There you go. And
yes, I write a lot of copy pastas and bullet points. My Google Drive is almost full with like,
it's just documents. So it's like 2 terabytes of just documents. It's intense. I've seen it. It's wild. And finally, it is Lara. Paid by ArenaNet to wipe 47 times to make the new strike mission look hard. What do you want to do these days?
Right now, people, I thought this was going to be like our secret shit. No. I'm not paid by ArenaNet to wipe on strikes. Hey everyone, my name is Nancy. I stream Guild with Sue. I also do like videos. I do like uninspired YouTube content. Someone recently said that on like a Reddit thread. And I thought, I was like, hell yeah, uninspired YouTube content. No, I'm on YouTube. We do stuff in the game. Kind of just do what we feel like, try to do stuff together. I'm not as good as the other people in this call, but I do have a lot of fun, and I think that's important. I'm on Twitch, I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube. Check them out if you want.
There you go. Look at the links. Look at the links in the chat. Look at the links below the stream. Look at the links in the video description. If you aren't watching and following everyone here, what are you doing? Okay? What are you doing? I don't know what you're doing, okay? And then also, reminder, go and flame Emmy for threatening to remove all quality of life from the game, okay? Like, that's my intro clip right there. Glad we got that one done.
I didn't mean it that way.
Remove all quality of life every 3 months. Seasons of quality of life. I like
create a problem, sell the solution.
Yes, big. There's another clip right there. Actually, that's good.
I think the best quote is that we should IQ gate.
Oh, yes! Yeah, you were on fire! You were on fire,
actually. If you believe in yourself, you can
Yeah,
do
yeah.
the encounters. That's all I was trying to say. Is like, you don't have to be a super genius to do them.
That's so good.
The tea time went on too long, so my brain was fried. I was just trying to say that you can do it if you believe in yourself. I was trying to send a PMA message, and now people are gonna like be DMing me like IQ tests, and I'm gonna be like, oh no, oh no.
You know what I really
IQ
want to
check to
see
gatekeep.
I really want to see people go into LFG and then say like, must show screenshot of getting past question 50 on the impossible quiz. Do you know what that is? That little flash game?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I'm aware of it, actually.
That would be hilarious. The new KP.
And of course, you're on this stream already, so while you're here, you might as well follow it, right? Like, sometimes I'm lucky enough to get entertaining people on here so I can leech them for content like a vampire. That's what I'm doing right now. So yeah, follow the stream. I stream a lot, except when I don't, like the last 2 days, actually. But, you know, I'm probably around most days. It's Guild Wars 2. I talk about things. I do the raids. I die to the raids. I feed in PvP and World vs. World. It's just good. Yeah, it's just a good time. So join me in the adventures. And once again, thank you very much to all of the guests who have joined on today. Make sure to follow everyone here. Subscribe to everyone here. Give everyone money here as well so we can buy gems and rebuy our quality of life. That is a fleeting bonus to us as we enjoy the game. And come back and watch every single day. But that is just going to about do it. Once again, thank you everyone for watching. Really hope you enjoyed the stream. It's an excellent tea time. Leave us a comment as well. Let us know what you thought. Okay, discuss some of these incredible ideas. And we'll see you all next time. Farewell, my friends. See you later.